Senate will come to order. The senators will please take their seats. The senators and all in attendance will please stand and be led in prayer by the Honorable Stephen D. Newman, 23rd Senatorial District. Following the prayer, all will please remain standing and be led in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America by Corinne Sloan, Assistant Journal Clerk, Senate Clerk's Office.
Good afternoon. In Matthew 6, Christ told us how to pray, and some of you may join me. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For not thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Clerk will call the roll. All those in attendance will please record their vote aye. The clerk will close the roll.
You have a quorum, Mr. President. Senate Journal for Wednesday, February the 17th, 2021.
The senator from Eastern Fairfax, Senator Surville, moves that the reading of the journal be waived. All in favor of waiving the reading of the journal will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 32, noes 5.
Ayes 32, noes 5. The reading of the journal is waived. The clerk will report any communication from the House of Delegates. The senior senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw. Thank the senator. The question is, shall the reading of the communication from the House of Delegates be waived? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 33, noes 4.
Ayes 33, noes 4. The reading of the communication from the House of Delegates is waived. The clerk will report any communication from the governor.
Do not have any, sir.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, first, I'd like to, in the morning hour, to mention that on Monday, the 22nd of February, around 4 o'clock, we'll be interviewing additional judges. And the following day, we will certify those judges, and then I'm going to ask that we vote on those judges that afternoon. And pursuant to that, Mr. President, pursuant to Rule 6 of the HJR 5001, the scheduling resolution, I move that the Senate do now suspend the special and continuing joint order relating to judicial elections until Tuesday, February the 23rd, at the conclusion of the morning hour.
Thank the senator. The question is, pursuant to Rule 6 of House Joint Resolution 5001, the scheduling resolution, shall the Senate suspend the special and continuing joint order relating to judicial elections until Tuesday, February the 23rd, at the conclusion of the morning hour. All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. The special and continuing joint order is suspended until Tuesday, February 23rd at the conclusion of the morning hour. Is there any other business to come? Okay. No, it's okay. You're good. Is there any other business to come in the morning hour? Do any other senators wish to be recognized? Seeing none, the clerk will call the calendar.
Senate calendar for Thursday, February 18th, 2021. Unfinished business Senate. Senate Bill 1212 has passed the House with amendment.
Senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, I move that we concur in the House amendments to Senate Bill 1212.
Does the senator want to speak to that motion?
Yes, Mr. President, in the journal here, it simply adds a provision dealing with the New River Valley Passenger Rail Station Authority. It provides simply with a provision that, however, nothing in this subdivision shall be construed to provide the authority with the power of condemnation. That's all it says. And again, I move that we concur in the House amendment.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding Senate Bill 1212? Seeing none, the question is, shall the Senate concur with the House amendment? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, no 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. The Senate concurs with the House amendment.
Senate Bill 1215 has passed the House with amendment.
Senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the House amendment be accepted. And speaking to that motion,
There's the floor.
it is a typographical error that the House caught where we inadvertently used the word position rather than petition. And they caught that, and that's all the amendment does. So with that, I move that it be accepted.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding Senate Bill 1215? Seeing none, the question is, shall the Senate concur with the House amendment? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 24, noes 13.
Ayes 24, noes 13. The Senate concurs with the House amendment.
Senate Bill 1247 has passed the House with a substitute with amendment.
Senator from Bath, Senator Deeds.
Mr. President, I move that we accept the House substitute with amendment.
Senators, the floor.
This bill puts, these changes put this bill in the exact same posture as House Bill 1834, which is now on our calendar on third reading in an uncontested manner. The amendment they made to the substitute is purely technical. Again, I ask that we adopt the amendments.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding Senate Bill 1247? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 1247 and the Senate concur with the House amendment? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, no 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. The Senate concurs with the House amendment.
Senate Bill 1254 has passed the House with amendments.
Senator from Prince William County, Senator McPike.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move, with the recommendation that the amendment be rejected, I move the amendment be agreed to. And speaking to the motion.
Senator, is the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is in language providing a preference a substantial and preferred preference for applicants with equity interest in minority individuals. There's still a question pending with the House in terms of the timing and sequence, whether there's also sort of interim efforts for some of the new licensees and renewal periods. There's simply some technical language that we have to work out with the House as well as with Virginia Lottery, and need to send this to conference. Thank you. And again, just to resume, the recommendation is to reject, so read. Thank you.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding Senate Bill 1254?
Mr.
Senator
President.
from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain.
Will the gentleman from Prince William yield for a question?
Senator Yield.
I yield.
Senator Yields, you have the floor.
Mr. President, I would ask, do I understand that it's just a technical difference, or are there substantive differences?
Senator has the floor.
So to answer the senator, there are, as you see printed on page 3, the amendments that are listed there, still both technical, potentially substance to be worked out. It's still working through both stakeholders and Virginia Lottery in terms of what that final form, which would appear in a conference report. But that I can't speak to what that resolution is going to be yet until we further those conversations.
Mr. President, further question.
Further question, Senator Yield.
Mr. President, I would ask the gentleman.
I yield.
Senator Yields, you have the
I'm
floor.
sorry.
No, it's okay. You have the floor.
Can he explain what the First Amendment does?
Senator has the floor.
So I'd answer the senator that the insertion on line 217 in the First Amendment, I could read it out to you, but essentially provides substantial and preferred considerations of applicants that have essentially equity interest by minority individuals or minority-owned businesses, essentially creating different criteria, which could, again, provide a substantial and preferred consideration for a new license.
Further
Mr.
question?
President, did the House give any explanation as to what substantial and preferred consideration means?
Mr.
Senator
President,
Yield, you have the floor.
I yield, and I'd answer the gentleman. I don't have the full explanation. This was an amendment on the House version that was provided on the floor, but I think the overall intent is to provide minority equity applicant preferred and substantial consideration for whatever that definition is worth. There was some language that was passed within the casino bill also that had some relative language to providing some access to license or considerations in terms of opportunities for vendor or small businesses or other opportunities, much like we do SWAM. This is also an attempt to provide a level of inclusion of that language.
Right. So, Mr. President, further question.
Senator Yield.
I yield.
Senator Yields, you have the
Is
floor.
it all 3 amendments that the gentleman is asking us to reject, or just one?
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, happy to have all 3 rejected at this point, as any others would still come back through technical amendments and in the conference report.
Right. I thank the gentleman.
Senator. Full purpose senator from James City County, Senator Norman Rise.
Thank you, Mr. President. If the gentleman from Prince William would be so generous to yield for a question.
Senator Yield.
I yield for additional question of something I'm recommending rejecting, but sure.
Senator Yield, you have the floor.
Well, Mr. President, my response would be, I know it's a rarity, but sometimes it is informative to understand the contrast in the language so that you know where you should vote. And so I ask it in that context. And maybe I wasn't listening as attentively as I should have, but under that amendment number 1, are you aware that the language substantial and preferred consideration appears anywhere else in the code?
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, I'd answer the gentleman. I would have to do a search. I believe some of the language appeared within the casino language, but I cannot confirm the exact phrase used at this point in time.
I thank the gentleman. My second question is, and I
Senator Yield?
heard, excuse me.
I yield.
Senator Yields, you have the floor.
I've heard some collateral discussions that I'm trying to sort out in my mind. What does the term minority mean in this bill?
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, I would have to go look through the definitions or other sections of the code of what minority, individual, or minority-owned businesses, but I'd presume that it refers to other defined terms of SWAM or other minority business owners within our own code sections that are previously defined.
Mr. President, one final question. I'll try
Senator
to be
Yield.
more definitive.
Senator Yields, you have the floor.
Under the language of this bill, does minority include Native and indigenous people? Does it include Asians?
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, so as the amendment states, minority-owned business is the same terms that defined in 2.2/1604, and so I'd refer the senator to that code section.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know what that non-answer means. Thank you.
Thank the senator. For what purpose is Senator from Lynchburg, Senator Peake rise?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. To inquire if the gentleman from Prince William will yield for a question.
Will Senator yield?
I yield.
Senator Yields.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Then your recommendation is that we reject the amendments. Is that your personal recommendation as patron of the bill, or does that come from Finance Committee or General Laws or the Democrat caucus, or from the sponsors of the bill who wanted the bill?
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, I'd respond to the loaded question that is a procedural motion at this point in time to get this bill into conference, recognizing that the language needs additional work with all parties, the House patron, and stakeholders, and Virginia Lottery to make sure that the language is appropriate and works within our code. Thank you, Mr. President. Again, the recommendation is to reject.
Thank the senator. With the recommendation that they be rejected, the question is, shall the Senate concur with the House amendments? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 0, noes 38.
Ayes 0, noes 38. The Senate does not concur with the House amendments.
Senate Bill 1327 has passed the House with a substitute.
Senior Senator from Richmond City, Senator McClellan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the House substitute be agreed to.
Thank the Senator. You have the floor.
Thank you. This is basically a technical amendment to reflect what was the intention of this bill all along, and that was that the bill be limited to residential properties, and so that's what the amendment does.
Thank the Senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding Senate Bill 1327? Seeing none, the question is, shall the Senate concur with the House substitute? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 1.
Ayes 37, noes 1. The Senate concurs with the House substitute.
Senate Bill 1350 has passed the House with amendment.
Senator from Accomack, Senator Lewis.
Mr. President, I move that we accept the House amendment. And speaking to that motion,
Senator's the floor.
Mr. President, members of the body, the Senate will recall that Senate Bill 1350 introduced resiliency to transportation planning in the Commonwealth, and one of the things that it did was require that the Commonwealth Transportation Board, prior to adopting the 6-year plan, when it posts on its website the projects that are under consideration prior to their vote, was to include in the list of things that are already required for them to disclose on the website whether a project has been designed to be resilient. What the House amendment, when this was a clarifying administration amendment, added on line 20 was, or the project sponsor has committed that the design will be resilient. So it's, is the project design resilient, or has the sponsor committed that it will be resilient? So it's a simple change, and it clarifies for those projects that may not be at a situation where they are actually designed, but it's a commitment to include resiliency in the design. So renew my motion that the amendment be adopted.
Thank the Senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding Senate Bill 1350? Seeing none, the question is, shall the Senate concur with the House amendment? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The Senate concurs with the House amendment.
Senate Bill 1366 has passed the House with a substitute.
Senator from Southern Fairfax, Senator Barker.
Mr. President, I move that we concur with the House substitute, but with a recommendation that that we reject that substitute.
Senators, the floor.
Yes, and just to briefly remind everybody, this is the one dealing with aging services and providing the services to those who have the greatest needs from an economic or social need perspective. When the bill was introduced and had an initial substitute that was developed, there were a lot of concerns about the bill because it wasn't clear what the intent was in terms of who got what services. So we amended the bill here in the Senate and passed it on out. What the House did was that they took it back to the provision that had been, from our perspective at least, lacking some clarity. And so to be able to provide that clarity, we wanted to reject this amendment. But with that, I renew my motion to concur with a recommendation that we reject.
Thank the Senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding Senate Bill 1366? Seeing none, with the recommendation that it be rejected, the question is, shall the Senate concur with the House substitute? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senator desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 3, noes 36.
Ayes 3, noes 36. The Senate does not concur with the House substitute.
Senate Bill 1374 has passed the House with amendments.
Senator from Accomack, Senator Lewis.
Mr. President, we're moving that the House amendments be agreed to and speaking to that motion.
Senators, the floor.
Mr. President, members of the body will recall that 1374 establishes the Carbon Sequestration Task Force, and what these amendments from the House simply do is add to that task force the University of Virginia and the shellfish growers of Virginia. So they're all friendly amendments and just adding more people to the discussion, Mr. President. So with that, I move that we agree to the amendments.
Thank the Senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding Senate Bill 1374? Seeing none, the question is, shall the Senate concur with the House amendments? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 0.
Ayes 38, noes 0. The Senate concurs with the House amendments.
Senate Bill 1375 has passed the House with a substitute.
Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, first I want to apologize to Senator Barker. I meant to vote no on that. But anyway, this is 1375. This is a presumption bill that for fire and medical service personnel, and they can, when the bill left the Senate, it was prospective starting July 1st. That carries a price tag all around the state of about $2 million, which we were prepared for. The House has converted it to Delegate Jones' bill, which makes it retroactive, I assume, back to last March 20th. When we were looking at that, it had a price tag of about $50 million. So I would ask that you reject the House substitute.
Thank the Senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding Senate Bill 1375? Seeing none, and with the recommendation that it be rejected, the question is, shall the Senate concur with the House substitute? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 7, noes 32.
Ayes 7, noes 32. The Senate does not concur with the House substitute.
Senate Bill 1406 has passed the House with the substitute.
Senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben.
This is the cannabis legalization bill, and I move the substitute, with the recommendation it be rejected, I move that we accept the substitute so that we can get this into conference. Again, that would be a red vote.
Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding Senate Bill 1406? Seeing none, and with the recommendation that it be rejected, the question is, shall the Senate concur with the House substitute? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 0, noes 39.
Ayes 0, noes 39. The Senate does not concur with the House substitute.
Mr.
Senator
President,
from Alexandria, Senator Eben.
having voted on the prevailing side on page 2 on SB 1215, I move that we reconsider that vote so a member can change their vote. That was SB 1215 on page 2.
Thank the senator. Question is, shall the vote by which Senate Bill 1215 had the Senate concur? Oh, need a second? Okay. Sorry, we're frozen. To make sure it's on the, okay. It's good. Okay. Thank you. Question is, shall the vote by which the Senate concurred with the House amendments on Senate Bill 1215 be reconsidered? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. The motion is agreed to. Senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben.
Yes, this is the typographical error that the House had caught, so I move that the House amendment be accepted.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House amendment? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 24, noes 15.
Ayes 24, noes 15. The Senate concurs with the House amendment.
On page 6, Senate Bill 1410. It's passed the House with a substitute.
Senator from Loudoun County, Senator Bell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the House substitute and speaking to the motion.
Senator has the floor.
This bill, as you may recall, we had some issues on veteran status, where there included people who were serving active duty, active guard, active reserve, and it changed to define this as military status, which includes all those categories. There was another section of this bill which was, we had some disagreement when we were going through the legislative process. We took it out of the original Senate version, and this is, if you're looking, it's on line 990, line 981. And this actually was the waiver of remedies or rights under the Service Members Civil Relief Act. This is now, we were able to find peace in the valley, and we played with the wording a little bit to get it right. And we've got peace in the valley on this, and now it includes this as a prohibitive provision that a service member would not have to waive this right without some sort of consideration. In many cases, junior members were signing leases and they were being told unless they waived the Servicemen's Civil Relief Act, they could not get a lease. And where this really comes up is this gives service members the ability to sometimes break a lease early if they were to get military orders that would cause them to move. Typically, these are in areas where they have a lot of military members, so usually the landlord's able to rent to another person and doesn't have a harm. With that, this is a better bill. It helps to do more for our veterans, and I renew my motion to accept the substitute.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding Senate Bill 1410? Seeing none, the question is, shall the Senate concur with the House substitute? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The Senate concurs with the House substitute.
Senate Bill 1413 has passed the House with amendments.
Senator from Northwestern Fairfax, Senator Boysko.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move we accept the committee amendments.
Thank the Senator. You have the floor.
Thank you. So we have some eagle-eyed grammar experts in the House, and they felt that it was better that we use the word for obtaining rather than to obtain in the language, and made some changes there. But just to remind you all, the content of the bill is exactly the same. This is the bill that will expand our access to getting more broadband in Virginia, making permanent a pilot program where our electric utilities will be able to provide that capacity for middle mile, and I move that we accept the amendments.
Thank the Senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding Senate Bill 1413? Seeing none, the question is, shall the Senate concur with the House amendments? All in favor of the motion will record. We're good. All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 2.
Ayes 37, noes 2. The Senate concurs with the House amendments.
Senate Bill 1469 has passed the House with a substitute.
Senator from Southern Fairfax, Senator Barker.
Mr. President, I make a motion to concur with the House substitute, but with a recommendation to reject it.
Senator's the floor.
This bill is the one that's dealing with the opioid abatement authority and creation of that. We amended a few things in the bill. The House did not make all those amendments, and so therefore I'm recommending that we reject this so that we can get it into conference and resolve the differences between the two bills. And with that, I move again a concurrence with the House substitute, but a recommendation to reject it.
Thank the Senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding Senate Bill 1469? Seeing none, and with the recommendation that it be rejected, the question is, shall the Senate concur with the House substitute? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 0, noes 38, Rule 36-1.
Ayes 0, noes 38, Rule 36-1. The Senate does not concur with the House substitute.
Senate Bill 1471 has passed the House with a substitute.
Senator from Henrico, Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. President. With the recommendation that we reject the amendments, I move that we concur with the House substitute.
Senator's the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a language disagreement about what we're going to call these licenses, and it needs to be worked out in conference. So if we can reject these, we'll get it back to the original posture of the Senate bill and move forward from there. Thank you, Mr. President. Again, I recommend we reject.
Thank the Senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding Senate Bill 1471? Seeing none, and with the recommendation that it be rejected, the question is, shall the Senate concur with the House substitute? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 0, noes 39.
Ayes 0, noes 39. The Senate does not concur with the House substitute.
We are awaiting House action on the remaining bills in this section. Oh, I'm sorry. 1472 is passed the House with a substitute.
Senator from Roanoke County, Senator Suderline.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate agree to the substitute.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. The substitute just puts the bill back in the posture in which it was originally introduced. There was just a little stylistic difference of opinion along the way, and I think that this is the right approach, and I hope we'll agree to it.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding Senate Bill 1472? Seeing none, the question is, shall the Senate concur with the House substitute? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The Senate concurs with the House substitute.
Now the remaining bills are awaiting House action. Uncontested calendar, House bills on third reading.
Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, I move that all House bills on third reading on the uncontested calendar, it's pages 9 through 27, that's House Bill 1986 through House Bill 2323, be advanced to their final passage in a block after the adoption of any amendments thereto, and that any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block, please do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill.
Thank the senator. Question is, shall the House bills on the uncontested calendar, third reading, pages 9 through 27, House Bill 1986 through House Bill 2323, be placed upon their final passage in a block after the adoption of any amendments thereto, with the understanding that any senator desiring a bill be removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The bills are before us in the block. The clerk will read the number of the bills.
House Bill 1986, reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations. House Bill 1807, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor. House Bill 1818, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor with a substitute and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
I move that we adopt the substitute.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the committee substitute be adopted? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is adopted.
House Bill 1820, reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations. House Bill 1829, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor. House Bill 1834, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor with a substitute.
Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, I move that we adopt the substitute.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the committee substitute be adopted? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is adopted.
House Bill 1892, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor. House Bill 1893, reported from the Committee on Transportation with an amendment.
Senator from Western Fairfax, Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the committee amendment be agreed with, and I'm not casting aspersions, but somebody in some other body misspelled the word education. So I move that the amendment be agreed to.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the committee amendment be adopted? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendment is adopted.
House Bill 1907, reported for the Committee on Commerce and Labor. House Bill 1923, reported for the Committee on Commerce and Labor with amendments.
Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, I move that we adopt the amendment.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the committee amendments be adopted? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendments are adopted.
Mr. President.
Senator from Roanoke County, Senator Suderline.
Now that the committee amendments have been adopted to House Bill 1923, can that come out of the block? And if acceptable, I'd like it to go by temporarily, just so that it would be considered at the end of the regular bills.
Without objection.
Thank you.
House Bill 1923 will be removed from the block and will go by temporarily.
House Bill 1925, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations. House Bill 1942, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor. House Bill 1985, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor with a substitute.
Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
I move that we adopt the substitute.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the committee substitute be adopted? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is adopted.
House Bill 1989, reported from the Committee on Education and Health and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute.
Senator from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I first want to move that we agree with the recommendation coming from Finance, and of course, I think there's only one. Yes, sir.
Senator, want to move the committee substitute?
Yes, I want to move the committee substitute, Mr. President.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the committee substitute be adopted? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is adopted.
House Bill 1994, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor. House Bill 1995, reported from the Committee on Education and Health and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations. House Bill 2008, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor with a substitute.
Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, I move that we adopt the substitute.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the committee substitute be adopted? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is adopted.
House Bill 2034, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor. House Bill 2036, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor. House Bill 2078, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources. House Bill 2101, reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute.
Senator from Northern Fairfax, Senator Howe.
I move the substitute be agreed to.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the committee substitute be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is agreed to. Senator from Roanoke County, Senator Suderline.
Thank you, Mr. President. With the substitute having already been agreed to, can the previous bill please come out of the block?
Is that House Bill 2101?
Yes, sir.
Without objection, the bill be removed from the block.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the Senator.
House Bill 2110, reported from the Committee on the Judiciary and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations. House Bill 2111, reported from the Committee on Education and Health and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations, and there is a floor amendment.
Senator from, you want to take this? Senator from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we waive the reading of the floor substitute.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the reading of the floor amendment be waived? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The reading of the floor amendment is waived. Senator from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. Mr. President, 2111 relates to the task force on maternal health data and quality measures report, and it directs the state health commissioner to establish a task force on maternal health data and quality measures for the purpose of evaluating maternal health data collection process to guide policies in the Commonwealth to improve maternal care quality and outcomes for all birthing people in the Commonwealth. The bill directs the task force to report its findings and conclusions to the Governor and the General Assembly by December the 1st of each year regarding its activities, and states that the task force shall conclude its work by December 1, 2023.
Thank the Senator. Question is, shall the floor amendment be adopted? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The floor amendment is adopted.
House Bill 2117, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with a substitute and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Senator from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
I got to remember I have these bills back to back.
Does the senator want to move the committee substitute?
Yes, Mr. President. I move the committee substitute be agreed to on House Bill 2117.
Thank the senator. Question is, shall the committee substitute be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is agreed to.
House Bill 2133, reported from the Committee on the Judiciary with amendments and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, I move the Committee on the Judiciary's amendments. These are purely technical in nature. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. Question is, shall the committee amendments be adopted? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendments are adopted.
House Bill 2165, reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations. House Bill 2166, reported from the Committee on Education and Health and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with amendments.
Senator from Northern Fairfax, Senator Howe. Thank the senator. The question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendments are agreed to.
House Bill 2167, reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services with a substitute and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Senator from Arlington, Senator Favola.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that the substitute be agreed to.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the committee substitute be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is agreed to.
House Bill 2207, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor with a substitute and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, I move that we adopt the substitute from Commerce and Labor Committee on 2207.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the committee substitute be adopted? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is adopted.
House Bill 2212, reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations. House Bill 2219, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations. House Bill 2223, reported for the Committee on Finance and Appropriations. House Bill 2230, reported from the Committee on Education and Health and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations. House Bill 2252, reported from the Committee on the Judiciary and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations. House Bill 2269, reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations. House Bill 2282.
Mr. President.
Senator from Roanoke County, Senator Suderline.
Apologies to the clerk. Can House Bill 2269 on page 25 please come out of the block for the purposes of abstention?
Thank the senator. Without objection, House Bill 2269 will be removed from the block.
Mr. President.
The junior senator from Chesterfield, Senator Chase.
On page 12, could House Bill 1893 and House Bill 1907 come out of the block, please?
Without objection, House Bills 1893 and 1907 will be removed from the block.
Returning to page 24, House Bill 2223, reported for the Committee on Finance and Appropriations. Sorry. We're on page 26. Senator Suderline's fault.
What was that, Madam Clerk?
Nothing.
Oh, okay. All right.
He was busy clearing his desk.
Clutter, right?
House Bill 2282, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor. House Bill 2293, reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations. House Bill 2304, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor with a substitute.
Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, I move that we adopt the committee substitute on 2304.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the committee substitute be adopted? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is adopted.
Mr. President.
Junior Senator from Chesterfield, Senator Chase.
Thank you, Mr. President. On page 26, could House Bill 2282 please come out of the block?
Without objection, House Bill 2282 is removed from the block. Senator from Roanoke County, Senator Suderline.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now that the committee substitute has been agreed to, can House Bill 2304 please come out of the block?
Without objection, House Bill 2304 is removed from the block.
House Bill 2323, reported from the Committee on Local Government and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Question is, shall the House bills pass in a block? That is all bills except for the following: House Bills 1923, 2101, 2269, 1893, 1907, 2282, and 2304. All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, no 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. The bills in the block pass.
Returning to page 12, House Bill 1893.
Mr. President.
Senior Senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you, Mr. President. Having voted on the prevailing side that we passed that huge block of bills, I'd ask that we reconsider that vote so another member can vote.
Okay. Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the vote by which the House bills passed in a block be reconsidered? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The motion is agreed to. The question is, shall the House bills pass in a block? That is all bills except for the ones previously identified. All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, noes 0. The bills in the block pass.
Returning to page 12, House Bill 1893.
Senator from Western Fairfax, Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Mr. President. The word was still misspelled. It has been corrected, and I move the bill pass.
Thank the Senator. Question is, shall House Bill 1893 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 1.
Ayes 38, noes 1. House Bill 1893 passes.
On page 12, House Bill 1907.
Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, I move that House Bill 1907 pass with a brief explanation.
Senators, the floor.
This provides that certain accelerated renewable energy buyers that are customers of Dominion Energy had to describe, as of March 1st, 2020, a voluntary companion experimental tariff offering the purchase of renewable attributes from renewable energy facilities, and it requires the renewable facilities agreement with the purchase of a minimum of 2,000 renewable attributes. And they will be exempt from the allocation of net cost related to the procurement of new solar or onshore generation.
Thank the Senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding House Bill 1907? Seeing none, the question is, shall House Bill 1907 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senator desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 1.
Ayes 38, noes 1. House Bill 1907 passes.
On page 13, House Bill 1923.
Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Hold on. That bill expands the existing pilot program under which Dominion and Appalachian are authorized to provide and make available the broadband capacity in the areas that are underserved.
Okay. Senator Suderline. Yeah. Senator from Roanoke County, Senator Suderline.
Mr. President, can that bill go by temporarily so it comes up at the end of the regular block? That's what I asked for a few minutes ago.
Right. Okay. We're checking to make sure. We have a few bills that we can get to before that, but it'll be coming up right after that. All right. So we're going to move to the next bill. We'll have that one go by temporarily. Thanks, Senator.
On page 17, House Bill 2101.
Senator from Northern Fairfax, Senator Howe.
I move the bill pass, and what this bill does is just extends the sunset on the matching funds that can, for Go Virginia, from 21 to 22.
Thank the Senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding House Bill 2101? Seeing none, question is, shall House Bill 2101 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 2.
Ayes 37, noes 2. House Bill 2101 passes.
On page 25, House Bill 2269.
Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
That was a bill, I think it was heard by Finance, but maybe not. Yeah, you all heard it first. Yeah. Okay. All right, that allows localities to assess a revenue share of up to $1,400 per megawatt on energy storage system. The bill provides that also on July 1st, 2026, and every 5 years thereafter, the maximum amount of revenue share that a locality may impose on certain solar energy projects and energy storage system shall be increased by 10%. Now, no increase may be made on any revenue share imposed by a locality on a solar energy project or storage system for which the application had been filed by the locality prior to January 1st of this year. And with that, I would move passage.
Thank the Senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding House Bill 2269? Seeing none, the question is, shall House Bill 2269 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 36, noes 1, Rule 36-1.
Ayes 36, noes 1, Rule 36-1. House Bill 2269 passes.
On page 26, House Bill 2282.
Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, this is a bill that was put in by Delegate Sullivan in Fairfax, which sets up the study and a report on policies to accelerate transportation electrification in the Commonwealth, and they have to report back by May 1st of next year. And what that means in plain English is this, as we're moving more and more towards electric vehicles and things like that, it's to study the setup of the infrastructure around the state to do that. And it directs them to take many, many things, and I don't think you want me to read them, into consideration and areas to look at and report back by May 1st of next year. That's what it is.
Thank the Senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding House Bill 2282? Seeing none, the question is, shall House Bill 2282 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 1.
Ayes 38, noes 1. House Bill 2282 passes.
House Bill 2304.
Senator from Henrico, Senator Donovan.
With deepest apologies, having voted on the prevailing side by which we passed House Bill 2269, may we please reconsider that vote so a member can be counted?
Thanks, Senator. What page is that?
25.
25. One bill ago.
Thank the Senator. Question is, shall the vote by which House Bill 2269 passed be reconsidered? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, noes 0. The motion is agreed to. Senator from Northern Fairfax, Senator Howe. Or Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Having previously explained the bill, that's the one where it allows local governments to assess revenue share up to $1,400 per megawatt on energy storage systems, and how much it can be increased over a certain period of time that I explained before, and with that I would move passage.
Thank the Senator. Question is, shall House Bill 2269 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 1. Rule 36, 1.
Ayes 37, noes 1. Rule 36, 1. House Bill 2269 passes.
On page 26, House Bill 2304.
Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Yes, this is 2304 was conformed. It's identical to Senator Boysko's 1413. And what that does, it makes permanent the pilot program which we enacted before for Phase 1 and Phase 2 utilities. That's Appalachian and Dominion. Would be permitted to petition the SCC to provide broadband capacity to underserved areas of the Commonwealth. And it expands the program to allow for participation of municipalities and government-owned broadbands. The bill also provides that investor-owned utilities may recover the cost of and revenue generated from the providing broadband capacity that serves as an electric transformation project in areas unserved by broadband. And it also consolidates state corporation commission petition approval process into one hearing.
Thank the Senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding House Bill 2304? Seeing none, question is, shall House Bill 2304 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 1.
Ayes 38, noes 1. House Bill 2304 passes.
Now returning to page 13.
Okay.
Page 27, regular calendar, House bills on third reading. House Bill 2014, a bill relating to the Virginia Residential Landlord and Tenant Act, landlord remedies, landlord's acceptance of rent with reservation, tenant's right of redemption. Reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology, we have one floor amendment.
Senator from Southern Fairfax, Senator Barker.
Mr. President, I'll try this again. I move that we waive the reading of the floor amendment.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the reading of the floor amendment be waived? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The reading of the floor amendment is waived. Senator from Southern Fairfax, Senator Barker.
Mr. President, the floor amendment is pretty straightforward. It deals with landlords who have 4 or fewer units and provides them the opportunity to limit the implementation of this what's incorporated in this bill here, and I've worked with the senator from the city of Fairfax to get this worked out here. And with that, I'll defer to the senator from Fairfax City.
Thank the Senator. Senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I had numerous conversations with the gentlelady, I believe from Newport News, about this bill, and basically she agreed to take small landlords out of the bill. I was under the impression that would take them out of this right of redemption requirement altogether. Actually, they're already in it, which I learned yesterday. So this basically just takes them out of the scope of the bill. And so in keeping with my agreement with the gentlelady, I ask that you support this amendment. Thank you.
Thank the Senator. Question is, shall the floor amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The floor amendment is agreed to. Senator from Southern Fairfax, Senator Barker.
Mr. President, now I move passage of the bill. And we've heard it explained numerous times. I'm not sure how many times I want to hear the same thing. But it's moving us forward in terms of rent of redemption, and allows the tenant who's behind to pay all costs, not only back rent, but everything else that would be anticipated, and to be granted that right then to stay in the unit.
Thank the Senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding House Bill 2014? Seeing none, the question is, shall House Bill 2014 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 25, noes 14.
Ayes 25, noes 14. House Bill 2014 passes.
House Bill 1778, a bill relating to removal of clutter from property. Committee amendments have been adopted by the Senate.
Senator from Arlington, Senator Favola. No, you're fine. Senator from Accomack, Senator Lewis.
I just got
Clutter on my desk, Mr. President? Is that why you called on me?
I just got it,
Good to
Mr.
see
President.
you. Senator from Accomack, Senator Lewis.
Mr. President, move the bill pass, and speaking to that motion.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, we had a pretty spirited discussion yesterday on House Bill 1778, but just to refresh the body's memory, House Bill 1778 provided that localities can, by ordinance, adopt prohibitions against clutter on property. Clutter was defined as the accumulation of pieces of equipment and furniture and other things that could be detrimental to the community and also to public safety. And again, we had a pretty spirited discussion on this yesterday, so I think everybody knows where they are on that, and so would move again that the bill pass.
Senator, do any other senators wish to be heard regarding House Bill 1778? Seeing none, question is, shall House Bill 1778 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 21, noes 18.
Ayes 21, noes 18. House Bill 1778 passes.
House Bill 1911, a bill relating to no-fault divorces, corroboration, requirement, reported from the Committee on the Judiciary with a substitute.
Senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, I move that the committee substitute be adopted. Mr. President, what the substitute does, this bill came across from the House to abolish the corroboration requirement for no-fault divorces. The committee instead limited the corroboration quite significantly. So the affidavit to corroborate the no-fault divorce would simply have to provide an affidavit from a third party regarding the grounds of the divorce without going into so much detail that's currently in the code. With that explanation, I move the substitute be adopted.
Thanks, Senator. For what purpose, Senator from Eastern Fairfax, Senator Survell rise.
Thank you, Mr. President. Speaking to the substitute.
Senator's the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, I would ask you to reject the committee substitute. I'm going to just explain to you how divorce works a little bit. So, when you get divorced in Virginia, you can get divorced on fault grounds and no fault grounds. Fault grounds are adultery, cruelty, which is physical abuse, desertion. There's a couple others that nobody uses very much, like buggery and some other things. But in the 1980s, we adopted no-fault divorce. But one of the things we carried over is that we required whenever you prove a divorce case, even if it's totally in agreement, everybody's cool, everybody's in agreement, there's a contract, property settlement agreement signed, you still have to corroborate your grounds for divorce. And the reason that was originally put in the law was because it was thought that people would lie to get a divorce, because back in the day it was hard when you only had fault grounds. So people would sort of fake an affair, or they would fake cruelty, or they would fake desertion. So they put the corroboration requirement on there, and the idea was that it's a lot harder to get somebody else to come to court and lie for you than if it's just you and your spouse, cooperating to get a divorce really quick. So this corroboration requirement is carried over pretty much from like olden times, shall we say. And when we modernized the divorce process in the 80s, that didn't catch up. So today, even when you have a complete contract, everybody's in agreement, it's been 12 months if you have kids, 6 months if you have no kids, you still have to bring somebody to court with you, or you have to get somebody to sign an affidavit, or somebody to take a deposition to say, you're both over the age of 18, neither of you are members of the military, here's what the kids are, here's where you lived in the county you live in, you're both Virginia residents. But you also have to, if you're going to do no fault, you have to have somebody come and corroborate that you have not cohabited with the person who you're divorcing from. And what that means is you got to say, well, have you been to so-and-so's house? Have you seen the inside of the house? Is any of so-and-so's stuff there? Is their toothbrush still on the bathroom table? Their clothes still in the dresser? It's really silly. And what happened is when this pandemic hit, it became even more silly because we told everybody, don't go in other people's houses because you might catch something. And so it's become hard to find people to actually corroborate the fact that people have separated, which has sort of highlighted the absurdity of the whole corroboration requirement to begin with to everybody, which is why this bill came through. So the substitute that came out of committee basically said, you don't need corroboration to prove you're both adults and you're both Virginia residents and that you have kids and all this stuff, but you still have to corroborate that you're not living together, which was the whole point of the bill. So, Mr. President, if we're going to adopt the substitute, we may as well just not adopt the bill because it doesn't accomplish anything. So my point is we need to reject the substitute, bring Virginia's law up to speed with the rest of the country, which doesn't really require this anymore because people don't really conspire to get divorced by agreement like that. It's not really an issue. And Mr. President, we need to reject this committee substitute and then pass the bill.
Thank the Senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding the committee substitute? Senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
If nobody else wishes to speak.
Senator's the floor.
divorce is the only thing that you cannot get a default judgment on. And the reason for that, historically, is people don't always tell the truth. And when a divorce is, just like marriage, is extremely important. It affects also issues regarding children, issues regarding sport, issues regarding inheritance, regarding property. It's extremely important that the state be involved, and that's the reason for the reason for corroboration historically, quite frankly, is people don't always tell the truth. Because we used to kid about the fact that divorce is often decided by the preponderance of the perjury. Well, that's a little cynical, but nevertheless, it's not always the case that people tell the truth all the time. And if you had a no-fault divorce, the plaintiff would file the suit, the defendant would not even respond, and then the plaintiff would sign an affidavit saying the important things, and there'd be nobody else to say whether it's true or not. So what we've done here is pare it down dramatically from a long list of things that should be in the affidavit. We whittle it down simply to the bare essence that at least somebody should corroborate the grounds of the defense. It's not hard, the grounds of the complaint. It's not hard to do. It's very simple. But the question is, should we even have corroboration? I think absolutely we should have corroboration. It's historically been very important in the law to have corroboration when it comes to getting a divorce. So with that, I move that the whittled down and very small affidavit that we put in as a substitute, that the body adopt the committee substitute. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Senator, for what purpose does the Senator from Rockingham, Sir Obenshain, rise?
Mr. President, speaking of the bill,
There's
to
the floor.
substitute, I can't believe what I'm about to do, but I agree with the Senator from Roanoke. The argument made by the Senator from Eastern Fairfax is fascinating. I don't think anybody in the history of no-fault divorces has ever gone in and inspected bathrooms to see whether there's an extra toothbrush there in order to offer that corroborating testimony as to whether the parties are still cohabiting. It's not an onerous requirement. There is no apartment inspection requirement in order to be able to do it. This simply does advance the goal of the patron without totally undermining the purpose for some corroboration requirement. This reduces it considerably, but doesn't eliminate it. I urge adoption of the committee substitute.
Senator, for what purpose, Senator from Bath, Senator Deeds, rise?
To speak to a bill that I certainly had not intended to speak to.
Senator, speak to the substitute?
Speak to the substitute.
Senator's the floor.
I rise to associate myself with the remarks of the senator from Southeast Fairfax County. This substitute, while well-intentioned, undermines the very purpose of the bill. The purpose of the bill is that the idea of corroborating much of the detail or even the facts of separation are farcical in any respect, but in this time of pandemic, it doesn't mean anything. And this bill is simply reflects the modern reality of marriage, particularly on our pandemic times, and I hope you will defeat that substitute.
For purpose, Senator from James City County, Senator Norman, rise.
Mr. President, mark this day down along with the senator from Rockingham. I join myself in supporting the comments of the senior senator from Roanoke. I try to avoid domestic cases like COVID-19, and blessedly I've gotten to that very undistinguished point in my career where I don't have to do what I don't have to do. But a couple of things. First of all, everybody is not truthful, and I know that sends an earthquake shatter through the room. Number two, what is required is minimalistic. First of all, the question is, to your best knowledge and belief, does the following happen? And all the individuals have to do is respond to the best knowledge and belief. They haven't cohabitated in the last 12 months or the last 6 months. So it's not onerous. But the absurdity is that at least in my professional world, the individual who's seeking the divorce and his or her witness, they come into the office and they sign an affidavit which is on one 8.5 by 11 sheet that has been prepared before they have got there. In many instances, they sign, and oh my gosh, it might take 7 minutes. Might take 7 minutes. And I say, Mr. President, that I think that is a very modest inconvenience if someone wants to characterize it as that, to protect some degree of integrity of the process.
Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding the committee substitute? Seeing none, the question is, shall the committee substitute be adopted? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. Chair is uncertain. We will have a recorded vote. Question is, shall the committee substitute be adopted? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 18, noes 21.
Ayes 18, noes 21. The committee substitute is rejected. Senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards. Senator from Eastern Fairfax, Senator Servo.
Mr. President, move the bill pass. The bill's been explained.
Thank the senator. Question is, shall House Bill 1911 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 27, noes 12.
Ayes 27, noes 12. House Bill 1911 passes.
House Bill 2081, a bill relating to polling places, prohibited activities, possession of firearm penalty. Reported from the Committee on the Judiciary.
Senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, this is a fairly simple bill. It just simply says you cannot have a firearm within 40 feet of a polling place. And you can't also campaign within 40 feet of a polling place either. That's basically all it does. With that explanation, I move that the bill pass.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding House Bill 2081? For what purpose does the junior senator from Chesterfield, Senator Chase, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to speak against this bill.
Senator, the floor.
You know, Mr. President, one of the things that concerns me is that when we have laws that go after law-abiding citizens, my biggest concern is for those of us who conceal carry and we're going to the polls to vote, that we're going to have to disarm before we go vote. Why are we penalizing law-abiding citizens? If we're going to pass laws, go after the criminals. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding House Bill 2081? Seeing none, the question is, shall House Bill 20...
Mr. President.
Senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshaw.
Sorry, speaking of the bill.
Senator's the floor.
You know, I would urge people to vote against this. I don't know where this junior senator from Chesterfield votes, but if she votes in a school or in a church, she's got to disarm anyway. But here's my concern about this bill. My concern is that there are a handful of places around Virginia where that aren't schools or aren't churches where people vote. And in my area, we've got a Woodman and World, privately owned facility. I voted a privately owned precinct where the parking lot runs right up to the building. There is a sign that says 40 feet, no campaigning inside of this sign. It's in the middle of the parking lot. There are parking spots inside of that sign. And what we are doing is creating a situation in many of these privately owned polling places where I don't know whether, it's the object of members to, prohibit voting in privately owned voting precincts, but this creates a problem for people who have a firearm in their car or on their person, who are concealed carry permit holders, who even pull up and park there. So, the churches and schools are already addressed, but my concern relates to those privately owned places. I'd urge a no vote.
The question is, shall House Bill 2081 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 21, noes 18.
Ayes 21, noes 18. House Bill 2081 passes.
We're going by temporarily on the next bill, 2174, because there's a substitute that's being copied. House Bill 2263, a bill relating to the abolition of the death penalty. Reported from the Committee on the Judiciary, and there is a floor substitute.
Senator from Eastern Fairfax, Senator Servo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Could that bill go by for the day so the other body can catch up with us?
Without objection, House Bill 2263 will go by for the day.
House Bill 1833, a bill relating to the Department of Conservation and Recreation, leasing of land. Reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. President. This piece of legislation basically would essentially shorten the process by which the state, particularly the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, could lease land. They would still have to get the consent of the governor. They would not have to come before the General Assembly, although they would have to provide a report. And that's pretty much what it does. I move that the bill pass.
Thank the Senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding House Bill 1833? Seeing none, the question is, shall House Bill 1833 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 26, noes 13.
Ayes 26, noes 13. House Bill 1833 passes.
House Bill 1884, a bill relating to facilitated enrollment program. Reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Senator from Northern Fairfax, Senator Howe. Okay. Senior Senator from
Labor first.
Senator from Arlington, Senator Favola.
Mr. President, I can speak to this bill. What this bill does is allows our tax department to put on the tax forms an opportunity for an individual to voluntarily agree to have their income information shared with the Department of Social Services and DMAS, so we can identify individuals who at one point may have a fluctuation in income, so we can ease their enrollment on our benefit exchange, our insurance programs that are on our benefits exchange system. The intent here is to help folks access subsidies so they can stay on their insurance and they don't move on and off of their insurance. It's about access to care. And over time, we will be able to actually do our own enrollment in the state. It's a very good bill, and I urge that the committee pass it, that the Senate pass it.
Thank the Senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding House Bill 1884? Seeing none, the question is, shall House Bill 1884 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 30, noes 8.
Ayes 30, noes 8. House Bill 1884 passes.
House Bill 1896, a bill relating to health insurance, essential health benefits, abortion coverage. Reported for the Committee on Commerce and Labor.
Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, the Bill 1896 is very similar to Senate Bill, or it's identical to Senate Bill 1276. That Senate bill was by Senator McClellan. What it does, it removes the prohibition on the provision of coverage for abortions in any qualified health insurance plan that is sold or offered for sale, it doesn't mandate it, through a health benefits exchange established or operating in Virginia. With that, I'd move its passage.
Thank the Senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding House Bill 1896? Seeing none, question is, shall House Bill 1896 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 22, noes 17.
Ayes 22, noes 17. House Bill 1896 passes.
House Bill 1902, a bill relating to expanded polystyrene food service containers prohibition civil penalty. Reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources.
Senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to move that bill go by for the day while we work on a compromise that will change the industry of recycling forever in Virginia.
Thank the Senator. Without objection, House Bill 1902 will go by for the day.
House Bill 1912, a bill relating to child support payments, juvenile in custody of or committed to the Department of Juvenile Justice. Reported from the Committee on the Judiciary and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, I move that the bill pass.
Senator's the floor.
And by way of explanation, this bill provides simply that the parents of a child who is in the custody or committed to the Department of Juvenile Justice does not have to pay child support to the Department of Juvenile Justice during that temporary time period. With that explanation, I move the bill pass.
Thank the Senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding House Bill 1912? Seeing none, the question is, shall House Bill 1912 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 22, noes 17.
Ayes 22, no 17. House Bill 1912 passes.
Mr. President.
Okay, we got two. The Senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain.
Mr. President, embarrassed that I am, having voted on the prevailing side of that bill, I respectfully request that we reconsider the vote by which it passed.
Objection. Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the vote by which House Bill 1912 passed be reconsidered? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The motion is agreed to. Senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, the bill having been explained, I renew my motion that the bill pass.
Thank the Senator. Question is, shall House Bill 1912 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 20, noes 19.
Ayes 20, noes 19. House Bill 1912 passes.
House Bill 19...
Mr. President.
The junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator Kiggins.
All right, Mr. President, having voted on the prevailing side of House Bill 1884, I move to reconsider the vote by which that bill was passed. On page 30.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the vote by which House Bill 1884 passed be reconsidered? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The motion is agreed to. Senator from Arlington, Senator Favola.
Thank you, Mr. President. Having previously explained the bill, I move that the bill pass.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall House Bill 1884 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 27, noes 12.
Ayes 27, noes 12. House Bill 1884 passes.
House Bill 1965, a bill relating to the State Air Pollution Control Board, low emissions and zero emissions vehicle standards. Reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor with amendments.
Senator from Bedford, Senator Newman.
Mr. President, I would like to ask that the bill go by for the day. I have an amendment that will maybe consider tomorrow, but I wanted, out of respect for the patron, to run the amendment by the patron first. So by for the day, please, sir.
Thank the senator. Without objection, House Bill 1965 will go by for the day. Sorry, Senator from Northern Chesapeake, Senator Sproul.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, will the senator please also let me know aware of what it's about so I can get with the patient?
Yep. Mr. President.
Senator from Bedford, Senator Newman.
Mr. President, I think what I'm being asked is, what is the nature of the amendment? Is that right, sir?
No, sir. You want it to go by for the day, and I will communicate with the patron as soon as we finish, and I will let him know, because he would ask me exactly why would you want to go by for the day. I want to tell him something.
Oh, yes, sir. I apologize, sir. I would like for it to go by for the day for the purposes of having an amendment, and I would like to make sure that the patron understands the amendment. Mr. President, just speaking to that, just so you understand. The bill basically has us turned over some of our air emissions for both the electric and for the low gas emissions cars, and I'm concerned that if we do not have an amendment on it, then whatever California does in the future, every move they make, we will be forced to follow. And my amendment would be that we would not be forced to follow everything that happens after this. So that would be the purpose of having go by for the day.
Further question?
Mr. President, a question to the senator, please.
Senator yield?
I certainly yield, yes.
Senator yields, you have the floor.
Sir, I do agree with you, but you also agree that the program is approximately equivalent but does not exceed the percentage requirement under the California program.
Yep.
Okay.
Mr. President, the gentleman is exactly right, and that I don't really care to go to go after that section, right? Having the ceiling from California makes sense. The question is more about what we do if California goes higher. Do we also go higher? And in talking to Legislative Services, it appears that is correct, especially in what is now Part 5 of the bill, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Question?
Thank you, sir. Thanks, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thanks, Senator. Without objection, House Bill 1965 will go by for the day.
House Bill 1979, a bill relating to electric vehicles rebate program creation and funding report. Reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute.
Senator from Northern Fairfax, Senator Howe.
I would ask that go by for the day. I'm frankly confused about where we are and want it sorted out.
Thank the Senator. Without objection, House Bill 1979 will go by for the day.
House Bill 1992, A bill relating to purchase, possession, or transportation of firearms following conviction for assault and battery of a family or household member penalties. Reported from the Committee on the Judiciary with a substitute, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute.
Senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Yeah, I finally got it, Mr. President. There we go. Mr. President, I move that the committee substitute be adopted. And by way of...
From Judiciary? We'll start with Judiciary?
Yeah, from the Judiciary.
Okay.
Okay. By way of explanation, this simply provides that...
No, I'm sorry. 1 second.
I'm not sure he's aware of that.
All right, Senator, thank you. Sorry. Just to get ourselves oriented, so there are 2 substitutes, one from Judiciary and then one from Finance. In order to get to the substitute from Finance, you'd have to move to reject the substitute from the Judiciary. Is that what the Senator...
Could this go by temporarily? I thought they were the same. Okay.
Without objection, House Bill 1992 will go by temporarily.
House Bill 1993, a bill relating to duties of agencies and their appointing authorities, diversity, equity, and inclusion strategic plans. Reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Senator from Southern Fairfax, Senator Barker.
Mr. President, I move that the bill, I move the bill pass.
There's a floor.
And basically what the bill does is it tries to ensure that diversity, equity, and inclusion is adopted in the various plans of state agencies. And they're relating to the duties of these agencies and appointing officers, and what this does is make sure that there has to be an incorporation of things that would deal with the diversity and equity and inclusion issues that are there.
Thank the Senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding House Bill 1993? Seeing none, the question is, shall House Bill 1993 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 24, noes 15.
Ayes 24, noes 15. House Bill 1993 passes.
House Bill 2032, a bill relating to the employees providing domestic service application of laws applicable to employee safety and workers' compensation. Reported for the Committee on Commerce and Labor with a substitute, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, I move that we adopt the committee substitute and explaining that, which is essentially the bill. It provides that individuals who are engaged in providing domestic services are not excluded from employee protection laws and laws regarding payment of wages. The measure also provides that the prohibitions on non-discrimination in employment, the Virginia Human Rights Act, apply to employers that employ one or more domestic workers. That's essentially the bill.
Thank the Senator. Question is, shall the committee substitute be adopted? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is adopted. Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
I would move that the bill is amended, substitute, now pass.
Thank the Senator. For what purpose does the Senior Senator from Richmond City, Senator McClellan, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. Could that bill go by temporarily?
Sure.
Without objection, House Bill 2032 will go by temporarily.
House Bill 2040, A bill relating to unemployment compensation, failure to respond, continuation of benefits, repayment of overpayments. Reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor with a substitute, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute.
Senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain.
Mr. President, I conferred with the senior senator from Fairfax. I'm going to ask this to go by for the day so an amendment can be placed on the desk.
Thank the senator. Without objection, House Bill 2040 will go by for the day.
House Bill 2047, a bill relating to criminal proceedings, consideration of mental condition and intellectual and developmental disabilities. Reported for the Committee on the Judiciary with a substitute, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President.
Senior Senator from Richmond City, Senator McClellan.
I can take this one. Move that the committee substitute be adopted.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the committee substitute be adopted? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is adopted. The senior senator for Richmond City, Senator McClellan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now, in this form, House Bill 2047 is identical to the bill that I had that deals with evidence of someone's mental illness or intellectual developmental disability being admissible in a criminal case if it is relevant to the mens rea required for a crime and also require certain training for attorneys and judges. And move the bill pass.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding House Bill 2047? Seeing none, the question is, shall House Bill 2047 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 25, noes 14.
Ayes 25, noes 14. House Bill 2047 passes.
Mr. President. Mr. President.
Senator from Accomack, Senator Lewis.
Mr. President, if we might return to page 31. Having voted on the prevailing side by which we passed House Bill 1912, I move that we reconsider that vote.
Okay. Okay.
It's already been reconsidered twice. Yeah.
Thank you, Senator. Just wanted to just explain it. Because it had already been reconsidered once, the second reconsideration motion, it would need to be unanimous in order to be approved. So just want to make that clear. Question is, shall the vote by, Senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards, did you want to be heard on the motion?
Yeah, what we want to do is reject the committee, the Judiciary Committee substitute, and move to the Finance Committee substitute. Wait a minute. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, we were on a different bill. So everybody's on the same page. We're on page 31, House Bill 1912. And the senator from Accomack, Senator Lewis, has moved for reconsideration, the second reconsideration. The question is, shall the vote by which House Bill 1912 passed be reconsidered? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The motion is agreed to. Senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, the bill having been explained, I move that the bill pass, House Bill 1912 pass.
Okay. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding House Bill 1912? Seeing none, the question is, shall House Bill 1912 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 22, no 17.
Ayes 22, no 17. House Bill 1912 passes.
Mr. President,
Junior Senator from Virginia Beach, Senator Kiggins.
having voted on the prevailing side of House Bill 1993, I move to reconsider the vote by which that bill was passed.
What page is that, Senator?
34.
Okay, that's good. Question is, shall the vote by which House Bill 1993 passed be reconsidered? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The motion is agreed to. Senator from Southern Fairfax, Senator Barker.
Mr. President, I move passage of the bill, and having been previously explained, hopefully we'll get it done this time.
Thank the senator. Question is, shall House Bill 1993 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 26, noes 13.
Ayes 26, noes 13. House Bill 1993 passes.
On page 36, House Bill 2118, a bill relating to the Virginia Electric Vehicle Grant Fund and Program Creation Work Group Report, reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute.
Senator from Northern Fairfax.
Mr. President.
Senator from Southern Fairfax, Senator
Mr.
Barker.
President, could that bill go by for the day?
Without objection, House Bill 2118 will go by for the day.
House Bill 2159, a bill relating to release of balloon prohibition civil penalty, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources.
Senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I did hear the magic word McWaters just a second ago. This bill is a bill, not surprisingly, from Virginia Beach, which basically puts limits on the release of balloons. I believe it's a group of 25. 25 or more you cannot release at one time. This had no opposition. I know we've made light of this subject, but I will say that folks in the beach, that this has been a concern of theirs, an environmental concern, and we pushed it through on a close vote, but I will say that, again, this has been an environmental issue that they've raised time and again, both the Republicans and Democrats, and hopefully we can get this done. Thank you. Move the bill pass.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding House Bill 2159? Seeing none, question is, shall House Bill 2159 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 22, no 17.
Ayes 22, no 17. House Bill 2159 passes.
House Bill 2218, a bill relating to pharmaceutical processors' cannabis products, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with a substitute, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Senator from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the committee substitute be agreed to.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the committee substitute be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is agreed to. Senator from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that House Bill 2218 pass. This is a pharmaceutical processors cannabis product. It permits pharmaceutical processors to produce and distribute cannabis products other than cannabis oil. The bill defines the terms botanical cannabis, cannabis products, and usable cannabis. The bill requires the Board of Pharmacy to establish testing standards for botanical cannabis and botanical cannabis products, establish a registration process for botanical cannabis products, and promulgate emergency regulations to implement the provisions of the bill. The bill allows the Board of Pharmacy to assess and collect a one-time botanical cannabis regulatory fee from each pharmaceutical processors not to exceed $75,000 to cover costs associated with the implementation of the provisions of the bill. This bill is very similar to the bill that I had passed out of the Senate, Mr. President, and with that definition, with that explanation, I wish the body would pass the bill.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding House Bill 2218? Seeing none, question is, shall House Bill 2218 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 31, noes 8.
Ayes 31, noes 8. House Bill 2218 passes.
House Bill 2307.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. President.
Senator from Northwestern Fairfax, Senator Boysko.
Thank you. Having voted on the prevailing side by which we passed HB 2159, I request that we reconsider that vote so somebody can vote in a better
It's
way.
on page 36.
Better explanation.
Well, the senator want to speak to the motion to reconsider, or do you want to wait? Okay. Question is, shall the vote by which House Bill 2159 passed be reconsidered? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The motion is agreed to. Senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Having been previously inaccurately explained, let me get a little bit better job. This is the release of any balloon. Previously was $50. This will be any balloon, but the fine will be $25 per balloon. Yes, it only applies to adults or individuals 16 and older, so you don't have to worry about kids at a birthday party getting hauled off in the back of a black and white. But the bottom line is this is, again, a bill that's an environmental concern in Virginia Beach, and I ask that you pass the bill.
Mr. President, will the gentleman yield for a question?
Will Senator yield?
I yield.
Senator Yield, you have the floor.
Mr. President, I asked him how many balloons, so if you release one balloon, you can get busted?
Senator's the floor.
Yes. It's releasing any non-biodegradable balloon outdoors. So you have to be outdoors, it has to be non-biodegradable, and it has to, of course, float up into the atmosphere.
Further question, Mr. President?
Senator Yield?
I yield.
Senator Yield, you have the floor.
Is there a mens rea, or is this a general intent crime?
Senator has the floor.
It says intentionally releasing. So if I was at a party and you hit my arm and caused it to float up into the air, I would be innocent. You would be guilty.
Further question?
Further question, Mr. President?
Senator Yield?
I yield.
Senator Yield, you have the floor.
Would there require, is this one of those things that is for a police officer something in plain view, or would they have to have a search warrant to do these kind of things? Would they be hiding around the bouncy house just waiting for
I
you?
think the interesting fact pattern would be if a police officer sees a balloon floating up into the sky and then drives and sees Stanley with a drink in his backyard, whether or not he has a sufficient cause to make an arrest. I would say yes.
Final question, Mr. President?
Senator Yield?
I yield.
Senator Yield, you have the floor.
Mr. President, I'd ask the gentleman, and I'm hoping that the answer is yes, but will this balloon release criminal activity be expungible?
Senator has the floor.
I would answer the gentleman. It's actually a $25 civil penalty, although we are going to exempt it from capital punishment if you make that part of our next debate.
Mr. President, I thank the gentleman, but speak to the measure.
Senator has the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now getting to the point where we are trying to control every behavior of every human being ever, about whatever we think, because we see that there might be a balloon that might hurt something, and now what we're just doing is we're legislating bad behavior. I mean, for crying out loud, if Senator Kiggins couldn't get this passed, what are we doing letting the House member pass this bill? You don't know that Kiggins isn't. She can be for today if you want. But I've seen bill after bill that does all this stuff. We're swinging so, and this is what we're thinking about, balloons? We're about to make marijuana legal. You don't think balloons are going to be released after that? Tons of them, man. Because they look awesome in the air. We could be doing some serious stuff here, guys. This is not serious. And if you believe in this body, as I do, then you kill this bill and you let Senator Kiggins bring it back next year, and then we'll all vote for it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. For what purpose is the junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator Kiggins, rise?
Mr. President, I rise to speak briefly to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
I was not intending to speak to this bill, but just in slight defense of it, because I did carry it last year, and I'm not carrying it this year. And my bill is different. My bill last year had one balloon that was permissible, and this bill does not. I will still vote in support because I know a lot of joking and laughing aside, this is a serious issue for those of us who live close to the coast and close to the beach. Our aquarium supports this. Our Bay Foundations support this. I see it. You know, we go sailing, we go canoeing, kayaking. You see these types of balloons. The pollution does exist. I get so many pictures texted to me from a lot of people who know about this bill from last year. So it is a real thing, just like littering is illegal, has been illegal. That's not a new issue. It's just a form of littering. Most importantly, what I want to say about this bill is that it carries a $25 fine. I hear, what the senator is saying about over government, and gosh, we voted on a bill yesterday about, test driving cars through neighborhoods. We vote on some crazy stuff in this chamber, crazier than I thought we would be doing here, and I agree there's a lot of real issues that I'd like to be talking about too, but this is really just a symbolic vote. It's raising awareness of this issue. There's not going to be cops standing around in bushes at birthday parties and bouncy houses. I highly doubt that. So it's really about raising awareness. This bill gets a lot of press in Virginia Beach, where I live. I think it is an environmental issue. It's controversial, but again, a symbolic vote, just that we recognize that littering in all forms should be illegal. Thank you.
Thank the senator. For what purpose is Senator from Roanoke County, Senator Suderline, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the chairman who presented the bill yield for a question?
Senator Yield.
I yield.
Senator Yield, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. So to clarify, the fine for this penalty would be what?
$25 per balloon.
So if the balloon
Senator
is
Yield?
not inflated, will you yield for another one?
I yield.
Senator Yield, you have the floor.
So if you inflate the balloon and it goes up in the air, it's a $25 fine. But if you take the balloon, do not inflate it, and drop it on the ground, based on yesterday's legislation, it'll be a $500 fine. Is that correct?
Well,
Senator has the floor.
I would tell the gentleman, I think that was up to $500 fine for public dumping. I don't remember.
Mr. President, I don't believe that was the case.
Okay. Not my bill.
Thank you, and I appreciate the Chairman of Agriculture being a good sport. But this is not a good bill. It wasn't even a good bill when the junior senator from Virginia Beach carried it. Thank you.
Thank the senator. For what purpose is the senior senator from Richmond City, Senator McClellan, rise? Oh, you're okay? All right. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding House Bill 2159?
Mr. President.
Senior senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove.
Just very briefly, from the gentleman from Fairfax City, yield for a question.
Will Senator yield?
I yield.
Senator yields. You have the floor.
Thank you. Mr. President, I was struck by the $25 fine that's associated with this balloon that's flying through the air. On July 1st, if there's a 1 ounce bag of marijuana tied to that balloon, and then it drops into somebody's yard, is it a delivery device? Is there still a $25 fine? Because there certainly won't be for the marijuana.
Senator, is the floor.
Yeah, I was going to say, there may be some double jeopardy issues there. I don't know. I'm going to decline to answer that hypothetical.
I thank the gentleman.
Mr. President, to answer the senator's questions, I believe it would be defined as clutter under the previous bill.
Thank the senator. For what purpose is the senator from Northern Chesapeake, Senator Spruill, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. Speaking to the bill.
Senator's the floor.
Mr. President, a member brought the bill back to allow the member to change his or her vote. I wish we never do that again. We just wasting our time. I want to go home. So I'm just hoping when we allow the courtesy for a member to bring something back to allow a member to change their vote, or they made a mistake to vote, it's fine. We had all the chance in the world to talk about this bill the first time. We wasted a lot of time on this because a member brought it back. Y'all be cool and chill out.
The question is, shall House Bill 2159 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 22, noes 17.
Ayes 22, noes 17. House Bill 2159 passes.
House Bill 2307, a bill relating to Consumer Data Protection Act, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology with a substitute, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Senator from Eastern Fairfax, Senator Servell.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, can that bill go by for the day so we can sharpen our arguments?
Without objection, House Bill 2307 will go by for the day.
House Bill 2321, a bill relating to Governor's Secretary, Secretary of Labor created, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology with a substitute, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Senator from Southern Fairfax, Senator Barker.
Mr. President, I move the adoption of the committee substitute.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the committee substitute be adopted? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is adopted. Senator from Southern Fairfax, Senator Barker.
Mr. President, I move that the bill pass, and just speaking to the bill.
Senator's the floor.
Mr. President, this would create an additional secretariat within the cabinet of the governor. What it would do is create a position that as it passed this bill, as it passed the House, had Secretary of Labor, but also in what was the amendment that was adopted would provide the option of having that be a Secretary of Workforce Development. So, but they would it's basically the same position. It's just the terminology that's used there. There would be 3 different agencies that would be moved from the Secretary of Commerce and Trade to the Secretary of Labor or Workforce Development. And this person would serve as a full-time member of the governor's cabinet there. And with that, I would renew my motion to pass the bill.
Thank the senator. For what purpose is the senator from James City County, Senator Norman, rise?
If the gentleman would yield for a question or two, I'd appreciate it.
Senator yield?
Yes, I yield.
Senator yields. You have the floor.
Mr. President, my first question is, why do we need to create another secretariat? It appears that we're creating more new secretaries, more new cabinet positions. Why do we need a Secretary of Labor when for generations Commerce and Labor has been able to oversee this?
Senator, is the floor.
Mr. President, what I would say to you and to the senator from James City County, I think this is an appropriate step to take at this particular time And it just so happens that, right now, and we've been going through some economic struggles, and there's particularly some issues as it relates to workforce development and jobs within the Commonwealth of Virginia. And I think having a strong Secretary of Labor or Secretary of Workforce Development, whichever terminology is chosen, that would be that it's important to have that person have the same status as the Secretary of Commerce and Trade, as well as the other cabinet positions within the within the governor's cabinet.
For the question,
Mr. President, if he would yield for another question, please.
Senator Yield.
I'd be happy to yield. Yes.
Senator Yields, you have the floor.
Mr. President, my second question is a little more pointed. Other than organized labor, who is clamoring for this secretariat?
Senators, the floor.
Mr. President, there are a lot of people who are working on these types of issues, workforce development issues. I mean, one of the problems we have with our economy right now in Virginia is that we have a lot of people who are out of work, but at the same time, we have a lot of jobs that the businesses and entities operating them cannot fill the jobs. And we need to continue to be able to train enough people to take these jobs and to have a system where the number of people needing jobs and the skills that they have matches up with what the businesses in Virginia need. I think we've made some significant progress just in the last 5 to 10 years in Virginia in terms of development of workforce capabilities there. We're doing a lot more specific programs to train people for various positions. And with things like the high-tech demand that we have in Virginia, we're going to continue to need to do a lot of that to be able to catch up, because right now there are a lot of those jobs which are very well-paying jobs that are very good for the economy of Virginia that the businesses cannot fill, and it's important that we develop the workforce to be able to meet the demand for those jobs.
Further question?
Mr. President, I thank the gentleman. My last question is...
Senator Yield?
Yes.
Senator Yield, you have the floor.
I would respectfully ask the gentleman if you could share with me what the projections are on the number of full-time employees that will have to be hired and increased in order to staff the Secretariat, and what is the projected budget for the creation and operation of this new Secretariat?
Senators, the floor.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, I have not looked at the budget issues here. There are 3 agencies that would be transferred from the Secretary of Commerce and Trade to the Secretary of Labor or Secretary of Workforce Development. But there is no addition in terms of number of personnel. There's already an Office of Workforce Development, and this would just elevate it to a higher status, give it more prominence, and I think probably provide more opportunity to be able to do the things that can keep us being the #1 state for business in the country if we can train the people to be able to fill those jobs.
I thank the gentleman, Mr. President, speaking to the bill.
Senators, the floor.
Mr. President, never in the history of the Commonwealth, when we have created a new Secretariat, has it been able to be completely staffed with transferring employees from other divisions and sustaining within the budget of the purported cost savings. And I say to this, I hearken back, and I think it was a good thing at the time we did it, when we created the Secretary of Agriculture. All of the individuals, with the exception of the Secretary, were going to be transferred from other agencies. They were going to be able to move administrative individuals. There would be no increase in cost as a result of the cost savings from these transfers. I invite you to look at the growth of the budget in that very good Secretariat since then. I would say, Mr. President, that early on in the budgetary process, and I think particularly after the presentation before the Senate and Appropriations Committee from the Secretary of Public Safety, I inquired approximately how many new FTEs would be included in the governor's presented budget, and I believe it was somewhere around 354, somewhere give or take that number. Mr. President, what that did not contemplate were the number of new FTEs that were going to be incorporated in the Senate bills and now in the House of Delegate bills. The other day, just for the fun of it, I started counting just out of the last stages of the Senate budget, and I stopped counting at 390, and that's before we received the first bill from the House of Delegates. And I really do think that there needs to be some scrutiny to the number of FTEs that we're continuing to increase in our labor force. I know, Mr. President, we had a discussion in Senate Finance and Appropriations after a presentation by Secretary Lane about the growth in revenues at approximately $790 million, which was encouraging. However, Madam Chairman brought us back to the land of reality and said even with those unanticipated revenues of $790 million, we were still $800 million down on what had been forecast. And I just think, frankly, this is bordering on irresponsibility. Thank you, Mr. President.
Purpose is the Senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben rise.
To speak briefly to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
The governor's had a chief workforce advisor for some time now, and what this does is aligns three agencies, the VEC, Department of Labor and Industry, and I believe DPOR, who currently don't directly report to that advisor, to do so. And with the problems that we've had at VEC, I think it's wise to have someone who is focused on that along with workforce. As the senator from Southern Fairfax said, there are no new positions. This is really aligning positions and not about hiring new people. And with that, I hope the bill will pass.
For what purpose is the junior senator from Richmond City, Senator Morrissey, rise?
Speaking to the measure, Your Honor.
Senator has the floor.
Speaking to the measure, Mr. President. I was listening very carefully to the two senators from Southern Fairfax County, the senator from Alexandria. I thought the senator from Alexandria gave a more substantive reason why we needed a Secretary of Labor. But let me just say this. I heard the gentleman from Southern Fairfax County say that we are going through some challenging economic times. That was one of the reasons to create this additional secretariat. When I first came into the General Assembly in 2008, we were going through a great recession, and I remember Governor Kane taking extraordinary measures to cut back on government spending, ordering agencies to first cut back to 5%, 10%, and then 15%. We managed to get through that and remain the #1 state for doing business during the Kane and McAuliffe and McDonnell administrations. We didn't add secretariats during that time. I don't believe the solution every time we have a challenge is for a business to add another employee. I've had 4 businesses. First one was when I started as a teenager, and we hired 10 to 12 people, and we cut lawns all day long when he cut Senator Saslaw's lawn. I had a business that was adult daycare support and residential support for intellectually challenged adults, not unlike Senator from Portsmouth. I was a managing partner for 2 small law firms, and I have a small business now that runs real estate development. And the first thing you do when you have extra work is you look within your numbers, within the people that are working for you, to see if they can't handle the work. Right now, I haven't heard, other than to align agencies, and I think that's a good thing. I don't have no problem with aligning agencies, but I haven't heard of a substantive reason to add another secretariat to the Commonwealth. And until I hear that reason why we need that additional personnel, I do not intend to vote for HB 2321. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. President.
It's okay. Thank the senator. Senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben.
I just want to be clear that this bill does not contemplate adding any full-time employees, but rather taking the governor's chief workforce advisor now and having 3 agencies report to them. And really, that person's been operating at cabinet level for some time. It just names them for what they're doing and gives them a broader portfolio to do that with. Let the Secretary of Commerce focus on trade and business, and let the governor's workforce advisor focus on workforce and labor. The person already exists. It's just aligning the agencies in a thoughtful way, I think. And with that, I hope the bill will pass.
Thank the senator. For-purpose senator from James City County, Senator Norman, rise.
The gentleman from Alexander yield for a question.
Will Senator yield?
Yes.
Senator yields. You have the floor.
Mr. President, my question is, so you are assuring me with a high level of comfort that this newly created secretariat is not coming forward next year with a comprehensive budget that includes new FTEs and that will draw all of its resources from the existing secretariats you've just referenced?
Senator's the floor.
Well, my understanding is that there won't be new FTEs. I don't submit the budget on behalf of the governor, and I have not discussed that with him. But I believe that this is taking existing cabinet-level official, retitling that person, and aligning those agencies to report to them.
Further question?
Mr. President, I would ask the gentleman,
Senator yield.
it will not be difficult to take these transfers and the structuring of this new secretariat as you suggested and put a hard number on it. So, Mr. President, my question is, if in fact the Secretariat of Labor comes forward in 2022 with an expanded budget and new FTEs, you will join me in voting against that budget because it will be totally inconsistent with what you have represented today.
Senator yields. You have the floor.
Yeah, I'm not representing my vote on a budget that I haven't seen, nor do I have any expectation that there'll be any employees added. I'd be happy to scrutinize them carefully if any should be proposed.
I appreciate the gentleman.
Mr. President.
For-purpose senator from Franklin County, Senator Stanley, rise.
Mr. President, would the gentleman from Alexandria yield for a question?
Senator yield.
I yield.
Senator yields. You have the floor.
Mr. President, I would ask the gentleman, it seems to me that if I'm looking at this right, that DPOR would be underneath the Secretary of Labor. Is that right?
That's my understanding.
Further question, Mr. President.
Senator yield.
And so if DPOR would be underneath this new secretariat, the Secretary of Labor, then in effect the Secretary of Labor would be over employer licensing, wouldn't they? They would now control employer licensing, which would include architects, opticians, contractors, residential contractors and builders, professional engineers, waste management facility operators, those kind of things that are regulated and licensed by DPOR. Isn't that correct?
Senator yields. You have the floor.
That's my understanding.
Further question?
Yes, Mr. President, would I yield?
Senator yield.
I yield.
Senator yields. You have the floor.
Mr. President, I would ask the gentleman if he would agree with me that DPOR is a Callahan Act agency, and therefore all the cost of this move would be paid for by license payments, because Callahan Act stuff is paid for by licenses that are fees that are collected. So this would be paid for by increased license fees, wouldn't it?
Senator's the floor.
I would tell the gentleman that I'm not aware of any plans to increase license fees.
Further question?
Mr. President, would you yield again?
Senator yield.
I'll yield.
Senator yields. You have the floor.
Mr. President, I would ask the gentleman, that wasn't my question. My question would be that by the fact that the DPOR is a Callahan Act agency, any cost in this move would be borne from the generations of license fees, and therefore that would have to have an increase in those license fees to pay for this secretariat and the move that's happening here, where now this secretariat is now sitting over top of all of our licensors.
Senator's the floor.
I would disagree and say that the person who would be the Secretary of Workforce or Secretary of Labor is sitting at a desk that is paid for on the third floor of the Patrick Henry building and would remain in the same office, that the agencies would have their same payrolls, and that it would merely change responsibilities and take advantage of the Secretary of Work or the Chief Workforce Advisor's expertise.
And I thank the gentleman. Speak to the bill.
Senator's the floor.
Mr. President, members of the body, this is not something, and I think I must, and I don't like to agree with the senator from James City County, but I do. This is way expensive. It's going to be way expensive. And you're putting now a secretariat over licensing through TPOR. Those fees are going to go up on all of our professionals, on everybody that we license, whether it's a contractor or an operator. And we're going to put this cost on the business owner, the little man, the little guy. I'm I understand what you're trying to do, but this is just not well thought out at this point in time, and I don't think it's ready for prime time. So I urge that we vote no on this. And remember what authority we're actually giving this labor secretary, which is an awesome power. And with that awesome power comes an awesome cost. Thank you, sir.
Thank the senator. For what purpose is the junior senator from Richmond City, Senator Morrissey, rise?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, I've spoken before, but I would like if the senator from Alexandria would yield for a question.
Will Senator yield?
I yield.
Senator yields. You have the floor.
First of all, I preface my question with I appreciate his answers to the other questions, and they were done with specificity, but can you address this? Why hasn't this need for a creation of a new secretariat been done until now? We have had, by my count, at least 7 recessions in the last 50 years. We've had the same issues that you're articulating are necessary for an additional secretariat now. What is the reason for doing it in 2021 as opposed to decades previously?
Senator has the floor.
Well, I would say that right now, just to clarify, this person exists and has existed in the past. They oversee DPOR right now by gubernatorial memo, and this would just align that. You want to know why it didn't happen last year or the year before? I'm not involved closely in the governor's development of priorities, so I can't answer that for you.
Mr. President, would the gentleman yield for another question?
Senator yield. Sir yields. You have the floor.
I would tell the gentleman you almost got it. Here's my specific question. I understand there's going to be an alignment of agencies. I get that part. I understand that an individual who is already doing the work now will continue in almost that exact capacity. My specific question is why now in 2021 are we creating an additional secretariat for the work that was previously done by other people? There's got to be, or maybe there is no reason. Well, that's also a legitimate answer.
I would answer the gentleman saying that perhaps the pandemic has particularly illuminated the issues of workforce, and particularly as they go with VEC, but I think it's just a recognition of reality, and if the person's doing the work, why not have them have that same title of secretary as others who oversee executive branch agencies?
I thank the gentleman. Mr. President, would the gentleman from Franklin County yield for a question?
Will Senator yield?
I'll yield.
Senator yields. You have the floor.
I would ask the gentleman that notwithstanding that we are aligning agencies and there's an individual that is currently doing the same work, can you explain or give us a positive reason or reasons why we should not add this secretariat, thus increasing the number of secretariats in the Commonwealth?
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, answer the gentleman, but I don't know that I need to show, to prove a reason why you don't have to have this. I think I have. Mr. President, you're going to put this secretary over top of licensed individuals, over top of individual employment sectors that we license and control. Realtors. And the list goes on and on and on. Quite frankly, I don't think that, you have to then assert for yourself that this is not working. That somehow what we've done up to this point is just a terrible failure. And then in order to corral it, we need a secretariat, more bureaucracy, more oversight, more power. The answer is no. The answer is heck no. But when you think about these kind of like DPOR, what it does alone by itself, and what it licenses, and I'm just looking here, architects, opticians, engineers, waste management operators, barbers, realtors, help me out. You all know something. Residential contractors. And there's one person, anesthetists. This is like being on Jeopardy. This is great. But that is so many industries that this now will fall under this one secretariat, under one person's control. And so part of that is that the senator from James City County said, oh, his question was, this has to cost a lot of money. It's gonna. Well, in the Callahan Act agency, and under Callahan, remember, a fine legislator in his own right, said that these agencies could be created, but they had to generate their own incomes in order to survive, DGIF, DPOR. And so that doesn't change because that's in the act. So when you make this change, you're going to have to raise the fees on all of those professions in order to compensate the bureaucracy that you're creating. And I don't think that's fair, especially in a pandemic, to pass along to our businesses right now, because we want to create another layer of bureaucracy.
Further question?
I thank the senator. Mr.
Thanks,
President, at the risk of trespassing on this body's precious time, could I ask the gentleman from Southern Fairfax County to yield for one question?
Senator Yield.
I yield.
Senator Yields, you have the floor.
I would ask the gentleman, as a member of the Finance Committee, would it be logical and does he expect there to be a request from Finance next year for additional taxpayer dollars to fund this secretariat?
No, I do not expect that. I think we're operating in a frugal way in terms of how we're managing things within the budget, and I do not expect at all that we would be coming to this body to ask for adding money to the budget to deal with additional staff or other types of things that would have been referenced previously here.
I thank the gentleman.
Thank the senator. For what purpose, senator from Northwestern Fairfax, Senator Boysko, rise.
I have no further questions, sir.
Thank the senator. For what purpose, senator from Prince William County, Senator McPike, rise.
Thank you, Mr. President. Hopefully we can wrap up this debate, because I think the line and logic of the debate has fallen off general accountability and accounting standards. If you have one organization falling within an accounting structure that does have a payment, as suggested by the senator from Franklin, and you move it to the other, guess what? The existing one no longer has the financial constraints to then account for those costs for the existing secretary. Therefore, the argument of transference of the county cost is null and void. So I think we can complete and end that line of logic. What the senator from Alexandria has clearly outlined is our workforce development chief officer has clearly taken on responsibility of some key and critical things that we all hold dear in the Commonwealth. Yes, DPOR is part of that, but also Virginia Employment Commission and so many other important things that need executive focus at the cabinet level, Mr. President, and suggest we pass the bill and move on. Thank you.
Thank the senator. Senator from Southern Fairfax, Senator Barker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll try to wrap things up here. As I think some people, at least within this body, know, my background is in economics and public health, and part of what I specialized in addition to the healthcare field when I was getting my undergraduate degree in economics, was dealing with workforce issues. So this is something I've been very familiar with for a long time, and I've worked in, done a lot of things in the workforce development area over the last decade or so to try to make sure that we better align the skills of our workforce that's out there and the needs of our business community. I've been chair of the Virginia Health Workforce Development Authority for a number of years. I'm on the workforce board, the Board of Workforce Development. So I'm familiar with these types of things. I understand how these things operate and how they are most effective when they can align things so that we get have individuals who have the right training to take the jobs that we need and that we have available in our economy. And that's part of actually, I think part of the reason that we've done very well during this pandemic period is that 10 years ago, we were not really an outstanding state compared to other states around the country. We were not necessarily a leader in workforce development. We basically took some federal money we got, distributed it to local workforce development boards, workforce investment boards, and did a little bit there to help train a few people. But we were not really dealing with the massive number of additional jobs that were being created by the business sector, and particularly with some of the technology and other types of things that were there, making sure that we had the people who had the skills to be able to take a lot of these jobs. And by and large, the jobs in which we're doing a lot of the training for people now are jobs that are not only good for the economy, are good for the individual because they are high-paying jobs. They're very well-compensated jobs. So we have, that's part of what has helped us sustain us during this pandemic period, because although the number of people employed in Virginia has gone down a little bit here, we've kept our unemployment rate low. It's still below 5%, which is basically regarded as close to full employment there. And at the same time, we've increased significantly the income we're getting from the workforce, which is why our withholding taxes are going up at the same time that the number of people with jobs has gone down, because we have been able to strengthen the economy with jobs that are very well paying and that therefore contribute significant tax dollars to our operations here. As it relates to the arguments from the senator from Franklin County, the situation is, I mean, we do have with DPOR, for example, that is a Callahan agency. But in terms of the costs that are associated with oversight and operation of that, it's no different from having, no difference between having that agency and incurring various costs that then are paid for by the licensees while it's under the Secretary of Commerce and Trade, than it would be to move it to the Secretary of Labor or Workforce Development. So it does not add any, not even a penny to things to be able to provide that oversight there. And one of the challenges that has been faced is partly because of what we've been doing to promote economic development issues and some other things. We have within the Secretary of Commerce and Trade a large number of agencies, and this would help streamline things a little bit, make it a little bit better for them to manage things and get more of the attention that they're doing provided to the development of the job capabilities, working with the business sector and bringing other businesses to Virginia, whether they be from other parts of the United States or other parts of the world. And I think, that having this workforce development job will pay tremendous benefits to Virginia and our economy. And I would certainly urge everybody to vote for passage of this measure.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding House Bill 2321? Seeing none, the question is, shall House Bill 2321 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 20, noes 18. Rule 36-1.
Ayes 20, noes 18. Rule 36-1. House Bill 2321 passes.
House Bill 2330, a bill relating to electric utilities percentage of income payment program. Reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor and from the Committee on Appropriations, Finance and Appropriations with an amendment, and this amendment has been distributed to your desk.
Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, I've gotten requests on this to go by for the day, and so without objection, I would go by.
Thank the Senator. Without objection, House Bill 2330 will go by for the day.
House Bill 2332, a bill relating to the Commonwealth Health Reinsurance Program established, special fund established, assessment, federal waiver application. Reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor with a substitute and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
I myself am going to request that I can go by for the day. I just want to check out one item with respect to funding.
Thank the Senator. Without objection, House Bill 2332 will go by for the day.
Returning to page 13, House Bill 1923.
Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw. This is page 13, House Bill 1923. And the committee amendments have already been agreed to, just to get us all back on the same page. Again, page 13, House Bill 1923.
Mr. President?
Full purpose Senator from Northwestern Fairfax, Senator Boyce, go rise.
I think I could help out on this bill. This is very similar to two bills that we've already passed today. Senator Edwards had an identical bill to this one. It is dealing with the electric utilities, expanding middle mile broadband. Currently, that is a pilot program. This puts it in the same languages as the bill that I carried that we voted on earlier, as well as Delegate Tyler. However, it leaves it in the pilot program. The bills both contain language that makes municipalities able to participate in it. I have checked with our attorneys. There is no conflict between the two. They're exactly the same language, except that the bill that I carried earlier, SB 1413, and Delegate Tyler's HB 234304, simply make this pilot program permanent. So with that, I move that we pass the bill.
Thank the senator.
That's what I was going to emphasize. The big change was it made the bills we enacted last year, it makes the program permanent.
Thank the senator. For what purpose, Senator from Roanoke County, Senator Suderline rise.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would the senator from Northwest Fairfax yield for a question?
Senator yield.
Mr. President, I yield.
Senator yields. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. The issue as I see, and I'm asking to be corrected one way or the other, is it appears that we're passing two sets of bills that amend the exact same subsection.
Mr. President, your
Senator's the floor.
Our delegate from Roanoke is correct. The difference, this simply adds municipalities to the pilot program that is already in existence. The bill that we passed earlier that I carried and Delegate Tyler carried makes that same program permanent. I have checked with the attorneys, both through the Commerce and Labor Department as well as with Governor Northam's administration. There is no conflict. Both can go all of them can go forward without causing a problem for one another. But to make sure that you understand, we've already voted on the underlying bill that makes the pilot program permanent, and that was my bill and Delegate Tyler's bill. Is that clear?
Further question?
No, just speaking briefly.
Senator's the floor.
I thank the senator from Northwest Fairfax. I think it's just there's a handful of us that like one set but don't like the other set, and that's what puts us in the predicament. But thank you.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding House Bill 1923? Seeing none, question is, shall House Bill 1923 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. House Bill 1923 passes.
On page 29, House Bill 2174. And there is a floor substitute.
Senator from Northern Fairfax, Senator Howe.
Can that bill go by for the day, please?
Without objection. House Bill 2174 will go by for the day.
On page 33, House Bill 1992, we have a substitute from Judiciary and a substitute from Finance and Appropriations.
Senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, I move that we reject, moving to report the committee from the Judiciary substitute. I ask the body to reject, vote no, on the motion to report the Judiciary Committee substitute.
Thank the senator. With the recommendation that it be rejected, the question is, shall the committee substitute from the Committee on Judiciary be adopted? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no.
No.
The noes have it. The committee substitute is rejected. Senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
It's been a long day, Mr. President. The committee, the Finance and Appropriations Committee substitute does the following. It provides that if a person has been convicted of misdemeanor assault and battery against a family or a household member, the definition of a family or household member is the defendant's spouse, former spouse, or person who has a child with the defendant. It's very narrow. But if a person is convicted of misdemeanor assault and battery against a family or household member, that person will be barred from possessing a firearm for 3 years. There's a limit. And after 3 years, they could get their rights restored ordinarily. It also provides that if a person sells a firearm to knowing that the defendant was convicted of misdemeanor assault and battery, knowing that, that person could also be convicted of a misdemeanor, first class 1 misdemeanor. So that's basically what it does, Mr. President. With that explanation, I move that the Finance Committee substitute pass or be adopted.
Thank the Senator. What purpose Senator from Accomack, Senator Lewis, rise?
Mr. President, it is not without great trepidation that I rise to talk on this particular bill.
Senator's the floor.
But I feel like I need to share my thought process on this, which apparently is unique on my side of the aisle, and also to hopefully, at the outset of this discussion, as one of the first speakers, be disabused of my misconception or misreading or misapplication of this to practical everyday life, as somebody who has sat through General District and JNDR courts for about 30 years now. It seems to me we are embarked on an inconsistent path here. And I know that that has never been a high standard of care here, but occasionally we like to make reference to what we've done with other topics. So as I recall from the special session, we spent a great deal of time trying to change assault and battery on a police officer. And in the context of that discussion, an effort which I supported, because I had seen in practical application the low common law definition bar of assault and battery. And the senator from Eastern Fairfax was able to share with us a litany of egregious incidents which constituted and were found to be assault and battery by application of common law definition. Assault, who can forget assault and battery by onion ring? So we've got that piece of the puzzle, or problem. The second problem I have is, and another effort that I have supported, we've been all about trying not to tie judges' hands. So this bill certainly ties a judge's hands without regard to a particular fact pattern. And we've been trying to get away from that. Because invariably, if you talk about whether it's mandatory minimums or whether it's things like this mandatory 3-year prohibition, you will find some incident somewhere where somebody has been disproportionately impacted and a judge's hands have been tied. I've seen it countless times. That's why I generally do not support mandatory minimums for the same reason. And the third thing is, and again, somebody can disabuse me of this because it's been a while since I've been involved in this type of practice, but my understanding is these assault and batteries are typically accompanied by requests for protective orders, which can be extended for up to 2 years, can go for 2 years. And there's a prohibition of firearm possession within the context of that protective order. But the judge has some discretion in that protective order as to its length, whether to grant it in the first place, based on the facts that present themselves, unique facts that present themselves to him. Now, if this bill had had the ability of a judge in his conviction order to prohibit the possession of a firearm for a period of time, based upon his reading of the facts, put that arrow in his quiver, that tool in his toolbox, I probably would have been all for it. Suggested that a couple of times. But that never made it into this version. This version has improved. It certainly has improved. But I just think what we're looking at here is the opportunity or the possibility, no, not even possible, it's going to happen across this Commonwealth, 8.3 million people, that you are going to have inequitable and overreaching results if you pass this bill. I mean, that's going to happen. And I think there are other ways to get at the problem, There are other things, in addition to protective order, there was some things that could have been done in the context of this bill that would have made it a better bill. Nobody likes domestic abuse. Nobody wants somebody subjected to the possibility of harm through handgun violence and domestic abuse. But I think the other side of the equation is, again, you're going to have inequitable and disproportionate results. And so for that reason, can't support the bill unless, in the ensuing discussion, somebody, as I said, can disabuse me, because with the onslaught of social media after this, I would be more than happy to be disabused and have my vote changed. So have at it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the Senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding the committee substitute? That's wrong. Do committee substitute, or once we deal with this, we'll get to passage. Do you want to talk about the committee substitute specifically? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Mr. President, I'd be happy to speak to my colleagues' questions, but I think perhaps if we adopt the substitute, or actually, I'll just go ahead now.
I tell you what, Senator, why don't we adopt the substitute, and then we can
Yes, sir.
get everybody else in, too, if that's okay. Thank the Senator. So, Senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards, you already moved the committee substitute. It's the pending motion. Question is, shall the committee substitute from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations be adopted? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is adopted. Senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank my colleague from Accomack for, in a very reasoned way, stating what the issues are, the legal issues. And he's exactly right. As we've gone through the criminal justice reform since last summer, we've looked at moving away from mandatory incarceration, mandatory penalties, giving discretion back to judges. That's exactly right. But there are a couple exceptions to that.
Senator, sorry to stop your train of thought. Would you mind moving passage? Just so
I
we
will
can-
move the passage and then speak to them.
Thank the Senator. Please continue. You have the floor.
Okay. Let's look, for example, at the issue of drunk driving. That's a Class 1 misdemeanor. When someone drives drunk, we take away their license. And this is, I'm going to analogize this to drunk driving, where if someone is convicted of domestic abuse in a very specific fact pattern with an intimate partner, someone that they sleep with at night, or they have slept with, or they have a child with, we have designated that as frankly, a more serious crime than your just garden variety, everyday assault and batteries. And look, these are not easy choices, and I understand, and I was not a fan of this bill when it came through at the first time. I sort of changed to a more neutral position. I think at this point, I think we're getting this right. We're saying if you're convicted of assault and battery of an intimate partner, you're going to lose your gun rights for 3 years. And I own guns, okay? I believe in the Second Amendment. I think it's an important amendment. But the bottom line is, we've already shown where if people are convicted of drunk driving, they can lose their driver's license. We can take away a right, we can take away a privilege if there's a type of predicate conduct that we think shows that they have a predisposition to do this again. So again, this is a Class 1 misdemeanor. We have tried to make this as surgical as possible. It does restore the rights after 3 years, and I think this is a good bill.
Mr. President.
What purpose, Senator from Franklin County, Senator Stanley?
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the gentleman from the city of Fairfax yield for a question?
Will Senator yield?
I yield.
Senator yields. You have the floor.
Mr. President, I've looked through the Virginia Code and certainly have prowled the whole halls of the general district courts and circuit courts in Fairfax alongside my friend here. But can he describe to me that in any Class 1 misdemeanor that we have in the Commonwealth of Virginia, where any punishment or deprivation of a right exceeds 1 year, that includes liberty or property interests such as your driver's license? Can you articulate, because this seems to deprive one of a property right, the right to go hunting for 3 years. Can he describe to me any other Class 1 misdemeanor that extends a punishment in excess of 1 year?
Senator, has the floor.
Well, a little angel told me that DUI second would do that.
No, but first, we're not talking about, Mr. President.
Further question?
Yes.
Senator, has the floor.
Mr. President, I asked the gentleman, we're not talking about subsequent offenses. A first-time offense, Class 1 misdemeanor. Is there anything that exceeds 1 year in terms of its punishment in deprivation of liberty, jail sentence, probation, or deprivation of a liberty or right?
For a first-time offense, not under the state code. However, under the federal law, there, of course, would be a permanent ban.
Further question?
Mr. President, would he yield, please?
I yield.
Senator Yields, you have the floor.
Mr. President, in having known my friend, the good friend from the senator from Fairfax City for a long time, it's not that I know he doesn't believe that federal law is better than Virginia law, but would he agree with me that this would also include then a 3-year deprivation of someone from hunting for food?
Unless
There's the floor.
Unless they're going to use a bow, yeah.
I thank the gentleman.
Thank the senator.
Speak to the measure.
Senator's the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Mr. President, would the gentleman from Franklin yield for a question?
Will the senator yield?
Sure. I haven't started talking yet. Why not?
Senator Yields, you have the floor.
Would the gentleman acknowledge that under federal law today, when one is convicted under state law of domestic assault, they lose their firearm rights forever?
Senator's the floor.
Mr. President, I'd answer the gentleman that yes, and there is also a mechanism by which they can retain or regain their federal firearm possession rights, but that mechanism has never been funded, so there is no way to get it back. But there's not an intentional deprivation for a lifetime based on that in the federal government. They just created a mechanism, have not funded it, and set it up for someone to be restored of their rights.
So would the gentleman yield for an additional question?
Senator Yield?
Sure.
Senator Yields, you have the floor.
Would the gentleman agree with me that since that is not an effective way to get your rights back, this is at least for the first time, this grants someone who is convicted of domestic assault the ability to get their gun rights back?
Senator's the floor.
Mr. President, by saying within 3 years you get your gun rights back, extending punishment in excess and a deprivation of a property right and liberty interest in excess of what a normal punishment is for Class 1 misdemeanor, I don't find that to be, oh, goody. At least you gave some reason, some way to get it back. Because by the same, if I can finish, Mr. President, by the same token that he is trying to make his point that says, well, this gets you right back. Well, what does he say about those decriminalization and legalization of marijuana, where marijuana is still illegal in the federal government? Does his argument work there too? I doubt it, because it doesn't fit a narrative. And that narrative is legalize marijuana, take guns. Thank you,
Mr. President, would the gentleman yield for an additional question?
Senator Yield.
Mr. President, I'll yield if they make sense, yes.
Would the gentleman agree with me that 3 years is less than forever?
Senator's the floor.
Mr. President, I'd answer the gentleman by saying I was an English major.
That was a yes or no answer. Would the gentleman agree with me? Yes or no?
Mr. President, I'm talking to you. I'm not talking to the gentleman. But, Mr. President, I just wanted you to know that I was an English major. And the reason I was an English major is because I really stunk at math. But, Mr. President, I do believe the gentleman has finally given me a simple math problem that I can understand. And so my answer is yes. Yes,
I think
something is better than nothing. But what they first proposed was nothing. And now they make this something sound like, well, it's better than nothing. And here we go. Taking away a right to hunt, taking away a liberty interest for 3 years on a misdemeanor, first offense misdemeanor. We are going down a rabbit hole. But let's go make some marijuana legal so we can come back next year and make heroin, cocaine legal too, while it's still legal in the federal government setting. Jeez Louise. We need some consistency here. Mr. President, I understand what they're trying to do in trying to fix a problem, but this is still a problem. And, we want to give more people expungements and rights and restoration and stuff. But it always seems to be these bills fall right down the line of what you want to do, which is to restrict the Second Amendment. Can't have a gun near a polling place. Can't have an assault. You can't have a firearm if domestic assault occurs for 3 years. Now you can't have one under your pillow next year. Pretty soon you can only hunt with your finger. Don't laugh. I know one of you are going to put that bill in next year. Please defeat this bill. We can do better than this. We don't have to rush through everything here in your agenda. We can take our time on some things, work together, do it together, and find a result that is good for Virginia. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. For what purpose, Senator from Eastern Fairfax? Senator Surville rise.
Speaking of the bill.
Senator's the
Thank you, Mr. President.
floor.
We have been working on this for a long time. I think this bill came up last year. We heard the bill earlier this session. I think we had a couple of times last session. We've been taking our time to get it right. I think we're finally getting to a place where we can get this done. And I want to just make sure everybody's clear about a few things. First of all, domestic assault. We're talking about domestic assault. I don't think 24 years of practicing law I've ever seen anybody convicted of domestic assault on a first offense. That's not what happens. Typically on a first offense domestic assault, it's deferred for 2 years. You do anger management classes, and then it's dismissed unless you insist on being convicted. That's typically what happens. So typically when somebody is actually convicted of misdemeanor domestic assault, it's usually actually a second offense, although legally it's a first because they weren't convicted before. So most of these offenses where people are convicted, they are seconds, first of all. Secondly, protective orders. Protective orders are granted for a 2-year period. They can be extended for an additional 2-year period. So they often exist for 4 years. This is actually less than that. But they usually, if you want to get them extended, can be 4-year orders. Okay, so let's just get that straight. Third thing. Right now, a judge can convict somebody of domestic assault or DUI or any misdemeanor, and as a condition of probation, tell them they can't possess a firearm. A judge has that discretion, just like the judge can tell you you have to stay away from somebody for 500 feet away from a person, or a judge can put all kinds of restrictions on your liberty as long as you're on probation for 1 year after you're convicted. So judges already have some authority to limit your firearm rights during the period of probation subsequent to a conviction. All this bill does is puts us in a place where we can actually start to take advantage of federal law. I mean, it tweaks the existing system to get us into a place where we can take advantage of the Lautenberg Amendment. And if you're worried about gun rights being taken for conviction of domestic assault, that ship sailed. The federal government made it illegal already. What this bill does is by conforming our law to federal law, it means that state officials can bring a charge for possessing a firearm now when somebody has been convicted of domestic assault. But it also puts us in a position where people who really care about hunting or carrying a gun can get their rights restored under federal law, which right now they cannot. So if you go read 18 U.S.C. 921, subsection A33 of the Lautenberg Amendment, it says, as the federal law, a person shall not be considered to have been convicted of such an offense if the conviction has been expunged or set aside, or an offense for which a person has been pardoned, or has had his civil rights restored. So now, if you get this conviction, and you go in front of a circuit judge, you get your rights restored. You can also get your Lautenberg rights restored, which you cannot do unless we pass this law. So if you want to get us in a position where people who are actually convicted of domestic assault can legally possess guns, they can hunt legally and not have to worry about, being prosecuted, or where they can actually clear a background check at some point in their life after having been convicted, you need to vote for this bill. That's what it does. It doesn't do a lot of the things I think people are afraid of. I hope we can pass it finally.
For what purpose is Senator from Arlington, Senator Favola rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to speak in favor of the bill.
Senator, the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. My goodness, the fact that we're willing to take a chance after somebody is convicted of a misdemeanor assault of an intimate partner and separate that person from a firearm for 3 years, to me, and based on research, that is a common sense move. All of the research indicates that violence escalates. Having a break and taking away a firearm gives the person an opportunity, if possible, if a judge requires it perhaps, to readjust, go to anger management classes, get his or her life back together again. But I want you to note that 40% of all of the fatalities across our country are the basis of something that started with domestic violence. The calls that police officers go on, 70% of them are related to domestic violence. In fact, removing a firearm, our police chiefs would say, actually protects our police officers. And in the past, the State Association of the Chiefs of Police have supported my bill, when my bill was less narrow than this bill. And I have to thank the senator from Fairfax City for actually embracing this legislation and working it to a point where the lawyers here can have such intellectual fun with it. And I hope you can come to a point where you can actually support it. It is so much more narrow. And to the point of a protective order, the onus is on the victim to go back and ask the judge to extend the protective order, and therefore, if the judge decides to keep the firearm removed. This is at least a certain protection for 3 years, and then there can be a restoration of the firearm rights. We're talking about protecting folks in their homes, making their lives safe. When the federal law passed, which by the way is more expansive than this, which does take in children and grandparents, and we had that discussion a few weeks ago. So the federal law actually covers more categories than this does. But there have been several U.S. Circuit Court decisions, where judges have determined that the government does have a compelling interest in preventing gun violence, and that is not a violation of Second Amendment rights. And lastly, I just want to note that suicide rates are considerably higher in homes where there is a firearm, 30% higher. So we have an obligation as state leaders to reach that balance, to ensure that individuals can achieve some safety, and we balance that against, as you would say, the Second Amendment right to bear arms. And I have to believe, and I hope you do too, that a 3-year break after you've been convicted of a misdemeanor assault and battery, which, by the way, I'd have to agree with the senator from Eastern Fairfax, those convictions don't come easily, and the victim doesn't even go to court until it's quite severe. It's not the first time that there's been a battering when a victim goes to court. So this, I believe, is something that we have to do to act in a responsible way, and I hope we can take it upon ourselves to pass this measure. Please.
Thank the senator. For what purpose is the senator from Western Fairfax? Senator Marsden rise.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just address the bill briefly.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, it's been 30 years working for the juvenile court. I have been around a lot of fighting. Kids on a detention home floor, in the gym, communities, neighborhood squabbles, neighborhood fights. The one unique thing with domestic abuse is that when the case is settled, very often the two people involved go back to the same home, the same bedroom, the same bed. And it is a complicated form of fighting because it's also mixed up with affection and love and devotion and obligation. It is one of the most complex things that people go through. And so a little extra care in terms of making sure, as these issues are being dealt with through therapy, through whatever else the judge orders, that there is not a device available that can bring things to an instant conclusion. That's the difference here. Most fights just go away. The people never see each other again, or it's quickly forgiven. Two kids fighting in a detention home or playing basketball with each other the next day. That's not the way it works with intimate partners. So I think 3 years is a good time is a good amount of time to be safe, to be sure, to allow any remediation to take place that can be effective. It's a good bill. I tend to support it.
Thank the senator. For what purpose, Senator from Accomack, Senator Lewis rise?
Yeah, Mr. President, would the gentleman from Fairfax City yield for a question?
Senator Yield.
I yield.
Senator Yields, you have the floor.
I'd ask the gentleman in my never-ending quest for the truth and justice if he could address the issue, and again, I think the senator from Eastern Fairfax maybe have reinforced my original belief that we don't really need this bill, about the existence of protective orders, and which also have with them some, fortunately, some judicial discretion as to how they're fashioned and how long they are and their ability to be renewed.
Senator's the floor.
Well, I'll begin by admitting to the gentleman, my practice does not cover criminal defense, and I've never been the subject of a protective order, so my knowledge is limited, but I know a little bit about it from having practiced law with Scott for 17 or 15, however many years it was. 12 years? 12. Basically, that typically a protective order is entered at the same time. If there's a complaint or a warrant issued, by and large, the victim will also ask for a protective order. I would defer to Senator Survell as to what the process is. The way I wrote the amended bill or the substitute was, if there's still a protective order in effect when the 3 years runs out, that would suspend the restoration of rights, but otherwise the rights would be restored.
Thanks, Senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding House Bill 1992? Seeing none, question is, shall House Bill 1992 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senator desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 20, noes 19.
Ayes 20, noes 19. House Bill 1992 passes.
On page 34, House Bill 2032, we have adopted the substitute.
Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President.
Senior Senator from Richmond City, Senator McClellan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill pass.
Senator's the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is identical to the Domestic Worker Bill of Rights that passed the Senate prior to crossover, extending the workplace protections that the senior senator from Fairfax identified earlier in the day.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding House Bill 2032? Seeing none, question is, shall House Bill 2032 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 21, noes 18.
Ayes 21, noes 18. House Bill 2032 passes.
Page 39, uncontested calendar, House bills on second reading.
Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, I move that all House bills on second reading on the uncontested and regular calendar, pages 39 through 46, that's House Bill 1804 through 2324, that the rules be suspended and the second constitutional reading be dispensed with.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the second reading of the titles of the House bills on the uncontested and regular calendars, pages 39 through 46, House Bill 1804 through House Bill 2324, be dispensed with? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, noes 0. The reading of the titles is dispensed with. Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, I move those bills go by for the day.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the House bills on the uncontested and regular calendars now on third reading go by for the day? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills will go by for the day.
Page 47, uncontested calendar, House Joint Resolution on third reading. House Joint Resolution 542, requesting the Department of Rail and Public Transportation to study transit equity and modernization in the Commonwealth. Report. Reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with the substitute.
Senator from Hampton, Senator Locke.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the HJR 542 be agreed to. And
Thank the Senator. I'm sorry to interrupt, Senator. Do you want to move the substitute before we agree to it?
of course, I move that the substitute be agreed to.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the committee substitute be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is agreed to. Senator from Hampton, Senator Locke.
Thank you, Mr. President. I now move that HJR 542 be agreed to, and speaking to that.
Senator, is the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. What this does is it requests that a study on transit equity and modernization be studied, and while it was in finance and appropriation, it was determined that since JLARC is already doing a study with regard to this, that they would incorporate it into their current study. Again, I move that it be agreed to.
Thank the Senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding House Joint Resolution 542? Seeing none, the question is, shall HJR 542 be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Joint Resolution 542 is agreed to.
Regular calendar, House Joint Resolutions on second reading. House Joint Resolution 555, proposing an amendment to Section 1 of Article 2 of the Constitution of Virginia relating to qualifications of voters, felon disenfranchisement, automatic restoration of political rights. Reported from the Committee on Privileges and Elections. Whoops, don't need that today. House Joint Resolution 582, proposing an amendment to Section 15-A of Article 1 of the Constitution of Virginia relating to marriage, repeal of same-sex marriage prohibition, affirmative right to marry. Memorial resolutions.
Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, I move that the memorial resolutions on page 48, it's HJR 706, SR 508, and SR 513, be considered in a block in the usual manner, waiving the reading of the resolutions thereof with the understanding that any senator desiring to remove a bill from a resolution from the block will do so after the clerk has read the title of the resolution.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the memorial resolutions on page 48, HJR 706 through SR 513, be considered in the block in the usual manner, waiving the reading of the resolutions thereof with the understanding that any senator desiring a resolution be removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the title of the resolution. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The resolutions are before us in the block. The clerk will read the titles of the memorial resolutions.
House Joint Resolution 706, celebrating the life of John F. Merchant. Senate Resolution 508, celebrating the life of Edward Paul Crepeau. Senate Resolution 513, celebrating the life of Charles R. Hoth III.
The resolutions will be agreed to in the usual manner. All in favor of agreeing to the memorial resolutions will please rise. The resolutions are agreed to.
Commending resolutions.
Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, I move the commending resolutions on page 48 through 50, that's HJR 718 through SR 519, be considered in a block by voice vote, waiving the reading of the resolutions with the understanding that any senator desiring a resolution be removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the resolution.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the commending resolutions on pages 48 through 50, House Joint Resolution 718 through Senate Resolution 519 be considered in the block by voice vote, waiving the reading of the resolutions with the understanding that any senator desiring resolution be removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the resolution. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The resolutions are before us in the block. The clerk will read the numbers of the resolutions.
House Joint Resolution 718, 763, Senate Resolutions 506, 507, 509, 510, 511, 512, 514, 515, 516, 517, 518, and 519.
Question is, shall the resolutions be agreed to? All in favor of agreeing to the resolutions will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolutions are agreed to.
We have a supplemental calendar. Uncontested calendar, House Bill on second reading. House Bill 2058, a bill relating to Virginia STEM Education Advisory Board established report.
Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, I'm sure it's due to my myopic vision, but has a supplemental calendar been distributed?
I think it is on its way to you.
Mr. President.
Senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
An inquiry. Have we dealt with House Bill 2047 on page 35?
Yes, that bill passed 2514. And the substitute was adopted prior to passage.
Thank you. I must have been asleep.
That's okay. Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, I inquire of the clerk, does that complete the calendar?
No, sir.
I've only got one bill here.
Kidding.
That's it.
We're through. We're through.
We're through. We're done. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Awake.
Is there any other business to come before the Senate? For what purpose, Senator from Roanoke County, Senator Suderline rise.
Mr. President, for a point of personal privilege.
Senator, has the floor.
Mr. President, I've got 3 brief points that aren't related to each other, but are all on my mind.
Senator, I'm sorry to interrupt your point of personal privilege. I just ask all the members if they would please take their seats. I know we started kind of in the middle of the calendar, so I know everyone's talking and milling about, but if everyone could please take their seats for the point of personal privilege. Thank you. Senator from Roanoke County, Senator Suderline.
Thank you, Mr. President. The first issue is very frustrating to me. A lot of you know that I'm affiliated with a real estate company in the Roanoke Valley. We're very proud to be the largest and for a very large area. And with that, we've got a lot of folks with political views, obviously folks like myself with strong Republican views, some very prominent Democrats, some that are related to former members of the General Assembly who were in Democratic leadership. We've got a wide variety of political views. But there's one issue that every year when I get back, I'm asked about. Why was the health insurance bill unsuccessful? In 2018, it passed this body with broad bipartisan support. In 2019, it was again introduced as a Republican bill, and it passed with broad bipartisan support. In 2020, it was introduced as a Democratic bill, by a strong supporter of Obamacare. He thinks Obamacare is great. And it passed with broad bipartisan support. In 2021, a few weeks ago, we passed it on a 38-1 vote. And now, my phone is blowing up because it was rejected in the House of Delegates, not on an actual vote, but because it was sent to the Joint Commission on Healthcare to study. Well, I can tell you every Senate member of that commission thinks it's a good idea because we voted for it year after year. And it's very frustrating to me that I'm going to have these same conversations yet again. And these folks keep getting told that the health care insurance package that is compliant with the ACA is not good enough and that they're better off having nothing. Year after year, these middle-class folks that can't get health care insurance. And this is terrible. And the House of Delegates is failing because they're not sending us a different version. They're just saying no, and now they're pretending they're going to study it. And that makes me very upset. The second unrelated issue. First thing I did when I bought my house, changed the outsides of it. Two things I did. Put up an American flag and a Virginia flag, and I took off the newspaper box for the Roanoke Times because I did not want that in front of my house. The paper one had a lot of issues, still has some issues. But then I'm actually a subscriber to that newspaper now, and I'm proud to say I'm a subscriber because a few years ago, I remember the Republican leader had issues with some members of the media, and the question was, well, where do they need to be? Is it okay for them to be in the balcony or in the back like in the House of Delegates? Or is it important that they be in the front? And I heard over and over again, it's so important that they be in the front because you don't understand that what happens in the room really matters. It's important that we be there and we have perspective to see. 1 empty table, 2 empty table, 3 empty table, 4 empty table. Every day for weeks now, the only actual print reporter, writer, is from the Roanoke Times. So I'm getting my money's worth. And on those two unhappy notes, I've got a good note, got a very good note. I wore my Salem Red Sox mask today, and I didn't know what was going to happen today, but I had a great conversation with a member of our clerk's office, Eric, from Roanoke County, and he was asking about this season. I said, well, we still don't have a schedule yet. And with all these other bad things happening, including some bad bills we passed, I got good news today because professional baseball is returning to the Commonwealth with a date certain. The Salem Red Sox are opening up on the wrong side of the Potomac in Maryland, so I'll have to wait a week. But on May 4th, I'm driving to Senator Peake and Senator Newman's district because the Lynchburg Hillcats are going to be hosting Senator Reeves' brand new Fredericksburg Nationals. And for all the bad in the world, it's very good that we have professional baseball coming back to the Commonwealth. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. For what purposes the senator from Southern Fairfax, Senator Barker, rise?
Mr. President, I rise for a point of personal privilege.
Senator's the floor.
Mr. President, I would like to affiliate my comments here to some extent with those just recently made by the senator from Roanoke County. I'm a Red Sox fan, but it's a Boston Red Sox fan, so we at least can hope that those passing through Salem will help the Red Sox get back on the right track and get back to the World Series. But actually, the reason I am most interested and feel most compelled to stand up and discuss things this afternoon was unfortunately his first point that he made there. We have been trying year after year after year to reduce the number of people who do not have health care coverage and who do not work in a setting where their employer can purchase that coverage for them. It is shameful, I think, that we make our efforts here to be able to reduce substantially the number of people who lack health care coverage, and yet we are continually told it's better for them to have nothing, to not have a plan that is provided for, in this case, the realtors, as a group, as an organization. Other people have it. Other people have it related to their employment. They have it related to other types of affiliations. There are some who have it because of their union affiliation. There are some who have it because they work in banks, and banks are able to work together to do things. But when it comes to this group, the answer is always no. And I can tell you that it's not simply just an answer of no, but as was pointed out by the senator from Roanoke County, the alternative to them getting health insurance coverage, which could have been studied over the last couple of years as to how to do it. I certainly worked very hard on it, as did some of my colleagues here, as well as a number of others, in terms of coming up with a plan that meets all the requirements of the Affordable Care Act. Even though that was difficult to be able to maneuver, an agreement had just been worked out in the last few days with the State Corporation Commission to ensure that there was regulatory oversight that was at least as strong, if not stronger, than what is provided for health insurance companies, regular health insurance companies in Virginia. So there is no excuse whatsoever to deny these people, these Virginians, the opportunity to participate in a health plan with their colleagues. And making matters worse, they said, well, we're going to study this. We're sending it to the Joint Commission on Health Care. My staff had a conversation today with the director of the Joint Commission on Health Care, and he said that they could not get that full study done, a full comprehensive study done of that this year. So they are sending something to be studied by an organization at the same time when there is not the capability to do that study this year. We need to make sure that we are providing access to health care to all Virginians. And in this case, it would not cost the Commonwealth a penny. The premiums for these health insurance plans would be paid solely by the individuals, the realtors and others, who would be participating, and their companies. There's not a dollar of federal money that's incorporated. There's not a dollar of state money that would have been incorporated in that plan. So I am very frustrated again this year, but I guarantee you I'm not quitting now. We will continue to work to get this done and get those who have been standing in the way to be able to come to the table and actually work with us rather than distorting and misrepresenting what this plan is for their own political interest, their own biases and things. Whatever the reasons are, we are going to get this done. And I look forward to working with all 38 others of us that are here, and with the senator who will be selected from the 38th district down in Southwest Virginia in March, to have this be a unified Senate approach on things, to provide health care coverage to the Virginians who are willing to pay for their own coverage. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. For what purpose, Senator from Loudoun County, Senator Bell, rise.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rise for a brief point of personal privilege.
Senator, has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Some of you may or may not know this about me. I grew up and played tennis my whole life. I was always an avid tennis player. I was fortunate to coach tennis when I was in for a high school team in my neighborhood for about 6 years when I first retired from the military, and it was just a great honor. And growing up, one of my favorite players was Richmond's own Arthur Ashe. When I received my COVID shot, it was just down the street at the Arthur Ashe Center. And as I walked in there and looked at the plaques, it just brought back, memories of watching him growing up. And if you think of Arthur Ashe, I wanted to just point this out as we celebrate Black History Month. His birthday was, the date of his death was February 6, 1993. That was a Saturday, so we couldn't discuss it on that day, but I would be remiss if I didn't talk about him this month. I grew up and I played on public tennis courts. He played on public tennis courts. His dad was the caretaker of the Brookfield Park. They lived in the caretaker's cottage right here in Richmond. And he grew up on those courts. For him to go as far as he did in his career is really quite an amazing feat. He was the first black man to win Wimbledon, and currently is the only one ever to have won that tournament, the U.S. Open, the Australian Open. He won the U.S. Open when it was the first U.S. Open, the first time professionals and amateurs both played. He was the first black player to ever be on the Davis Cup team for the United States. He was the first black man to ever be the captain of the United States Davis Cup team. This is a remarkable list of accomplishments. But even more important, I think, than his accomplishments as a player was his accomplishments as a gentleman, as a statesman. He was so articulate. I encourage, if you ever are looking for a good book to read his book, States of Grace. It's a wonderful read. He was such a gentleman. And he also was an activist who took on tough issues to make the world better. At the height of apartheid, he traveled to South Africa to fight to make sure people are treated fairly, to fight against racism. He was arrested, but he stood up for the right things. He won many awards in his career and his life, not for stuff he did on the court, but what he did off the court. The highest one was the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which he was presented by President Clinton. I want to just close with a couple quotes as we remember this great son of Virginia that I think are great for anyone. One, start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. Very simple, but very powerful. True heroism is remarkably sober, very undramatic. It is not the urge to surpass all others at whatever cost, but the urge to serve others at whatever cost. And the last one, from what we get, we can make a living. From what we give, however, we can make a life. Please join me in celebrating our son, Arthur Ashe. Thank you.
Thank the Senator. For what purpose is Senator from Lynchburg, Senator Peake rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a brief point of personal privilege.
Senator's the floor.
To follow up on the Senator. Arthur Ashe got much of his early training from Dr. Walter Johnson, who was born in Norfolk, died in Lynchburg, was first African-American doctor in the area, practiced in Lynchburg, loved tennis, put a tennis court in his side yard, and as a part of that and I spoke about this when I was first in the Senate 4 years ago, had Arthur Ashe and Althea Gibson in Lynchburg where they played, and he taught him, and Dr. Walter Johnson was recently inducted into the Tennis Hall of Fame.
Thank the Senator. For what purpose is Senator from James City County, Senator Norman rise?
Extraordinarily brief point of personal privilege following up on the comments by the Senator from Loudoun.
Senator has the floor.
When I was a young boy, my dad had retired from the military, but he remained in the National Guard, and he was part of the unit that was down in the Blues Armory, which is just a few blocks from here. And I recall as a young man coming in there to see my dad one day when he was doing his military responsibilities, and he said, "Tommy, you got to go upstairs because we've got a large gymnasium up there, and there's this incredible young black boy who is taking tennis lessons up there, and you need to see this young man." And I went up there, and actually it was Arthur Ashe who was training up there in this gymnasium at the Blues Armory during inclement weather.
Do any other senators wish to be recognized? Is there any other business to come before the Senate? Seeing none, the clerk will report any announcements on the desk.
Today, Thursday, February 18th, the Committee on Transportation will meet 15 minutes after adjournment in the East Committee Room. Tomorrow, Friday, February 19th, the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services will meet at 8:30 a.m. East Committee Room. The Committee on Rules will meet at 10 a.m. West Committee Room. The Democratic Caucus will meet 1/2 hour before session in the Democratic Caucus Room. The Republican Caucus will meet 1/2 hour before session in the Republican Caucus Room. An update on the weather. A winter storm warning remains in effect until 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. Freezing rain is expected this evening with a total ice accumulation from 2 to 6/10 of an inch. Expect tree damage and power outages later this evening through Friday morning. Drive safely.
Mr. President.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Mr. President.
Senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal.
Mr. President, question for the clerk. It's my understanding that tomorrow the budget bill and all revenue bills have to be placed into caucus. Is that accurate?
Into conference, yes,
Into
sir.
conference. Mr. President, further question.
Senator's floor.
Does Madam Clerk anticipate that we will spend a lengthy amount of time with each other on Friday night in order to accomplish that task?
I think we'll be rather close to each other.
Mr. President,
16
I
apart.
should interpret Madam Clerk's comments to be that we'll be sharing dinner together tomorrow evening, and if we are verbose, we could share breakfast on Saturday morning.
We don't serve breakfast.
Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, a provocative question to Madam Clerk.
There's the floor.
Mr. President, even in my inattentiveness, I could not help but note the number of bills that were being carried over for the day. Does that mean that we're going to have to take all of those bills up tomorrow?
No, sir. We just have to get the revenue bills in conference.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Senator. Do any other senators wish to be recognized?
And dinner will be served tomorrow night.
Is there any other business to come before the Senate? Seeing none, I call on Madam President, Senator from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
I thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that the Senate do now adjourn until 11 o'clock tomorrow.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the Senate stand adjourned until 11 a.m. tomorrow? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The Senate stands adjourned until 11 a.m. tomorrow.